My name is Elise Marrow. I was 31, and my in-laws banned me from the head table at the wedding reception I had already paid for. They did it with smiles. That was the part people missed later, when the story got passed around in pieces. Nobody dragged me by the arm, nobody shouted, nobody made a scene in the way people understand scenes. Marianne Vale simply touched the back of my elbow with two cool fingers, pointed across the ballroom toward a table near the swinging kitchen doors, and said, "That's where we placed you, dear." By the end of that night, those same kitchen doors were where half her guests watched her perfect family name fall apart. Not because I screamed, not because I threw cake or wine or a bouquet. By the end of that night, the caterer stood beside me with a clipboard, the venue manager held a copy of my contract, and Marianne learned there are some seats you can steal and some bills you cannot. But I need to back up. There is a kind of truth that does not need a raised voice. It just needs a clean receipt, a steady hand, and the patience to let proud people finish lying. If you have ever been made to feel like a guest in a family you were marrying into, you will understand why I did not catch the first insult right away. Small disrespect does not always look like disrespect when it is dressed nicely. Sometimes it comes with a linen napkin. Sometimes it comes with pearl earrings and a hand on your shoulder. Sometimes it comes from someone who calls you sweetheart while moving your name card farther and farther away from the people you love. So before I tell you what happened at the reception, tell me where you are watching from. And if you have ever had to stay calm while someone tried to erase you, comment the word folder. That word matters in my story. More than the flowers, more than the dress, more than the chair they took away from me. Stay with me, because the part that looks like revenge was never revenge at all. It was just the first time the truth got invited to sit down. I grew up in a small brick house on Linden Street in West Haven, Ohio, the kind of street where people left porch lights on even when nobody was coming home late. My father bought that house in 1998 for $84,000, and he reminded me of that number like it was a family prayer. Not because he cared about money in a greedy way. He cared because every dollar had a story, and he believed stories got dangerous when nobody wrote them down. My father's name was Miles Marrow. He repaired commercial refrigerators for grocery stores, hotel kitchens, and school cafeterias. He could walk into a room, hear a machine humming wrong, and know what part was failing before anyone opened a panel. He smelled like steel, coffee, and the orange hand cleaner he kept by the sink. He wore the same brown work boots until the soles looked tired. He was not polished. He was not loud, but he noticed everything. When I was 9, I watched him argue with a contractor over a charge for $317. The man had come to our house with a yellow invoice and a red face, saying my father had agreed to an extra fee for disposal. My father stood at the kitchen counter, calm as morning, and pulled a folded carbon copy from a drawer. "No disposal fee listed," he said. The contractor huffed. "You calling me a liar?" My father looked at me before he answered, like he wanted me to hear the shape of it. "I'm calling the paper, the paper." That was how he was. He never told me to be suspicious of people. He told me to respect records. He kept receipts for tires, roof repairs, Christmas layaway payments, school field trips, even the old piano bench my mother bought at an estate sale for $26. He labeled folders in black marker: house, medical, taxes, warranties, Elise school, Elise future. My mother died when I was 12, and after that, my father's folders became less like organization and more like a way to survive. Grief made him quieter, but not colder. He still packed my lunch. He still signed every permission slip with the same careful handwriting. He still sat in the bleachers when I played clarinet badly in the school band. He just started saving everything. People thought he was cheap. He was not. He was careful. There is a difference. Cheap is when you make other people small so you can keep more. Careful is when you know how fast life can tilt and you build a railing before anyone falls. I did not become glamorous. I did not become the kind of woman who made people turn at restaurants. I was the woman who carried extra safety pins in a pocket of her purse. I was the woman who kept Advil, mints, a phone charger, and a tiny stain pen in a side pouch. At 26, I became an estate logistics coordinator for a private probate firm in Columbus. That meant I helped families sort homes after death, catalog personal property, schedule appraisers, find missing documents, and keep people from destroying each other over dining room sets. It was not a job people understood at parties. When someone asked what I did, I would say, I help settle estates. Half the time they blinked, then asked if I was a lawyer. No, I was not a lawyer. I was the person a lawyer called when 3 siblings were fighting over their mother's china and nobody could find the deed to the lake cabin. I was the person who opened drawers, matched serial numbers, photographed jewelry, found hidden envelopes taped under shelves, and sat with widowers while they cried over recipe cards. I learned that most families did not fall apart over the biggest things first. They fell apart over who got to control the story. A missing watch, a promised ring, a check written 6 years ago, a name left off a program. People show you who they are when they think the paperwork is boring. My father was proud of my job. He said it suited me because I had soft feet and sharp eyes. That was his way of saying I could enter a room without making it about me, but I would still see the drawer that did not sit flush. He died on a cold Tuesday in February, 3 years before the wedding. Heart attack. Sudden, clean, cruel. He had been fixing a walk-in freezer behind a family-owned bakery on Mercer Avenue. The owner, Mrs. Alvarez, told me he had laughed 10 minutes before it happened because flour had gotten on his sleeve and he said he looked like a ghost who knew HVAC. He left me the house on Linden Street, $142,000 in savings, a small life insurance policy, and a binder marked Elise Future. Inside that binder was a handwritten note. Ellie, I know you know how to handle papers. Handle your heart the same way. Do not give signing authority to anyone who mocks the cost. Do not fight in doorways. Do not beg for a chair. If you are wanted, they will make room. If you are used, they will make excuses. Keep copies. Dad, I read that note so many times the folds started to soften. By the time I met Camden Vale, I was not a broken woman. I was a quiet one. People confuse those two all the time. Camden was 32 then. He worked in commercial lending at a regional bank and had the kind of easy smile that made strangers forgive slow elevators. We met at a charity auction for a children's literacy nonprofit. I was there because my firm had donated volunteer hours to help catalog old book collections. Camden was there because his bank had sponsored a table. I was standing near a silent auction display, trying to figure out why anyone would bid $600 on a rustic bread-making experience, when Camden came up beside me and said, "If that includes cleaning flour out of every crack in your kitchen for 3 weeks, it's honestly underpriced." I laughed before I could stop myself. He looked relieved, like the joke had been a risk. That was what I liked first. Not his looks, though he was handsome in a gentle, slightly tired way. Not his suit, though it fit him well. I liked that he looked relieved when I laughed, like approval was not something he expected to own. We talked for 23 minutes. I know because I checked my phone when my supervisor texted asking where I was. Camden told me he hated golf, but attended golf events because banking was just theater with quarterly goals. I told him my work had taught me that nothing brought out childhood wounds like a roll-top desk. He asked questions and listened to the answers. When he asked for my number, he did not do it smoothly. "I'd like to keep talking to you somewhere with less aggressively tiny food," he said, then winced at himself. That made me like him more. Our first date was at a Thai place on 5th Street where the tables were too close together and the server called everyone honey. Camden ordered green curry, forgot he could not handle spice, and tried to pretend his eyes were watering because the story I told about a probate fight over ceramic ducks had moved him emotionally. I remember thinking, he is kind. Not perfect, not fearless, but kind. Kindness mattered to me. I had seen charming men become knives once their mother's bracelet was missing. I had seen polite daughters threaten lawsuits over quilts. Kindness that held under discomfort was rare. For almost 6 months, Camden and I lived in a soft little world of weeknight dinners, grocery store errands, and Sunday walks through neighborhoods where we pointed at houses we could never afford. He learned that I liked black coffee and hated surprise parties. I learned that he slept with one foot outside the blanket and always over-tipped breakfast servers. He met my friends. I met his coworkers. We talked about my father. He told me about his family slowly, like someone unwrapping something fragile that might cut him. His father, Graham Vale, had once owned 2 furniture showrooms with his brother. Old Vale Interiors, people still called it, though by the time I came around there was only one showroom left, and even that was more reputation than profit. Graham had the soft hands and distant eyes of a man who had spent years letting other people decide what kind of man he was. His mother, Marianne Vale, was the family center. Camden never said that directly. He said she was particular. He said she cared about presentation. He said she had high standards. And I remember the small pause before he added, for everyone. His sister, Tessa, was 28, a lifestyle consultant, though I never fully understood what that meant. She had 37,000 followers online and a habit of calling things darling when she meant cheap. Camden loved her in a tired way. Older siblings often love like that when they have spent their childhood translating storms. The first time I met the Vales was at Sunday lunch at their house in Belwick Heights. Their neighborhood had stone entrance signs, curved streets, and lawns so green they looked edited. The Vale house sat on a corner lot with 2 white columns and a front door painted glossy black. There were urns on the steps with white flowers arranged like they had been warned not to grow casually. Camden squeezed my hand before we went in. "They'll love you," he said. I smiled at him because I wanted to believe that. Marianne opened the door before he rang. She was tall, slim, and beautiful in a way that looked maintained by discipline rather than joy. Her silver blonde hair was twisted low at her neck. Her cream sweater matched her shoes. She wore a single strand of pearls and smelled faintly of gardenia, but not fresh gardenia, expensive gardenia, controlled gardenia. "Camden," she said, kissing the air beside his cheek. Then she looked at me. There was a measurement in that look, quick, accurate. Dress from a department store sale rack, nails clean but not manicured, hair brushed but not styled, no obvious jewelry except my mother's small gold locket. "Elise," she said, "how nice to finally see you in person." Not meet you, see you. I noticed. I told myself not to. Graham was in the living room, holding a glass of iced tea, though it was March. He stood when I entered. He had Camden's eyes, but not his warmth. "Nice to meet you," he said. Tessa came late, 34 minutes late, in camel boots and a coat she did not remove because she wanted us to notice it. She hugged Camden with both arms and made a sound like she had been away at war instead of across town. Then she looked at me and smiled. "You're Elise," she said, "the estate girl." I laughed softly because I thought it might be a joke. It was not. Lunch was roasted chicken, fingerling potatoes, asparagus, and rolls that looked homemade but came from a bakery. Marianne asked me questions with little hooks in them. "So your work is mostly cleaning out houses? Camden says you live on the west side. Is that still up and coming? Do you enjoy dealing with families at their worst, or is it just something one gets used to?" Each time, Camden shifted in his chair. Each time, I answered calmly. I explained my job. I said I loved my neighborhood. I said grief made people complicated, not bad. Marianne smiled like I had recited a recipe wrong. Near the end of lunch, she asked about my parents. I told her my mother had passed when I was young and my father 3 years earlier. "Oh," she said, setting down her fork. "So you're rather on your own." Camden said, "Mom." "What?" Marianne blinked. "I only mean family support is important. Marriage is not just 2 people, it is families joining." Tessa sipped her wine. "Some families are more joinable than others, the Caterer it was." The first little door closing. I counted 3 seconds before I answered. 1, 2, 3. "My father left me with a very good sense of family," I said. Graham looked at me then. Really looked. For 1 second, I thought he might say something. He took a drink instead. After lunch, Marianne walked us to the foyer. She touched the sleeve of my coat and said, "You're very composed, Elise. I can see why Camden finds that restful." Restful. Like I was a beige wall. In the car, Camden apologized before he started the engine. "She can come off a little strong." I watched the Vale house shrink in the side mirror. "She knows exactly how she comes off," I said. He was quiet. Then he reached for my hand and said, "I'm sorry." I believed he meant it. That was the trouble. Camden often meant the apology. He just did not always know what to do after it. For a while, I thought love would teach him. I thought if I was patient, if I did not force him to choose battles too quickly, he would learn to stand beside me without flinching. I had seen people grow. I had watched widowers learn to cook at 70. I had watched angry siblings become tender once the estate closed and the pressure lifted. I believed in slow change, and Camden did try in small ways. When Marianne referred to my job as house sorting, he corrected her. When Tessa joked that I probably had amazing thrift store connections, he said, "She manages legal inventories, Tess." When Graham forgot my last name twice, Camden said it louder the third time. Small things. Small things are not nothing, but they are not a wall either. The proposal happened 9 months after we met, on a cold Saturday morning at the conservatory. Camden knew I would have hated a restaurant proposal, hated strangers clapping, hated a ring hidden in dessert. So he took me to the tropical room, where the air was warm and wet and smelled like soil and green leaves. He led me to a bench under a banana plant and pulled out a ring with a narrow gold band and a small oval diamond. "My life is calmer with you in it," he said, then stopped and shook his head. "No, that sounds like you're a blanket." I started crying and laughing at the same time. He tried again. "My life is truer with you in it. I don't want to be impressive with you. I want to be honest. Will you marry me?" I said yes before he finished the last word. For 3 days, I floated. Then Marianne asked to see the ring. We went to Sunday dinner because Camden said his mother wanted to celebrate. I wore a navy dress and my mother's locket. Marianne had placed champagne flutes on the sideboard and white roses in the dining room. Tessa took 14 pictures of my hand before she found an angle that made the diamond look larger. "It's sweet," she said. Marianne held my hand in hers. Her fingers were cool. "Very understated," she said. Camden said, "It's exactly what Elise wanted." "Oh, I'm sure." Marianne patted my hand. "Not every girl wants a spectacle." "Girl," I was 31. Graham raised his glass. "To Camden and Elise." "To family," Marianne added. We drank. That night, as Camden and I drove home, he told me his parents had offered to host an engagement dinner. "That's nice," I said. "It might be at the club." "Okay." "And Mom asked if maybe we could talk dates soon. She says venues go fast." I turned my head and looked at him. "Camden." He smiled too quickly. "I know. I told her we'd discuss it ourselves first." "Good. We will." But by the following Tuesday, Marianne had emailed us a list of 12 venues, 5 photographers, 3 florists, and a subject line that read, "A few thoughts so we don't lose momentum." That was Marianne. She never pushed. She created momentum and then treated resistance like rudeness. I wanted a small wedding, maybe 80 people, a garden ceremony if the weather held, dinner, dancing, cake, no ice sculpture, no string quartet, no custom napkins with our initials pressed into them like a hotel chain. Camden said he wanted whatever I wanted. Then Marianne said, "A wedding is also a family statement." She said it over brunch at a restaurant called Juniper Slate, where a single pancake cost $18 and the chairs were designed for people who did not eat pancakes. Camden had invited her because, in his words, it may be easier if she feels included early. Included early became in charge quietly. Marianne arrived with a leather folio, a gold pen, and a smile meant for witnesses. "I know you two want something personal," she said. Of course. But Camden is the only Vale's son. People will expect a certain standard. I stirred my coffee. People? Our community, she said. Friends of the family, clients, relatives, people who have known Camden since he was little. I was thinking closer to 80 guests, I said. Her eyebrows lifted by the smallest amount. 80. Camden reached for his water. I kept my voice even. That feels right to us. Marianne turned to him. Does it? There it was again. Not disagreement. Separation. Us became her and you. Camden cleared his throat. I'm open to a little bigger if we need to. I looked at him. He did not look back fast enough. Marianne smiled. We don't need to decide today. Let's just gather options. By the end of brunch, she had gathered us into a 170-person wedding at Belwick Club in late September pending availability. I was not foolish. I saw it happening. But I also saw Camden's face every time his mother spoke over him. There was a boy in him still waiting for the room to relax. I told myself we could choose our battles. Venue, maybe. Guest list, maybe. But not everything. Not every hill needed blood on it. That was another thing my father used to say. Pick your hill, Ellie. Just make sure you know where the exits are. The Belwick Club was beautiful. All in the way old money liked to be beautiful. Dark wood, brass fixtures, oil paintings of men who looked disappointed in soup. The ballroom had tall windows facing the golf course, a terrace with stone planters, and chandeliers that made everyone's skin look expensive. Marianne glowed when we toured it. This room has history, she said. I thought, so do courtrooms. The event director quoted us a starting package of $31,500 before upgrades. That did not include florals, photography, music, dress, transportation, cake, or the catering extras Marianne kept calling necessary touches. Camden went pale in the polite way bankers go pale when numbers become personal. In the parking lot after the tour, he rubbed his forehead. We don't have to do this, he said. I looked at the building. Marianne and Graham were still inside, speaking with the event director like they were negotiating a treaty. What can your parents actually contribute? I asked. He was quiet too long. Cam, he sighed. They said they'd cover the reception. The whole reception? That's what Mom said. Can they? He looked ashamed. Not of them, I realized. Of knowing the answer. I don't know. That evening, Camden came to my house on Linden Street with a bottle of wine and a face full of worry. He sat at my kitchen table while I made pasta because chopping garlic gave me something to do with my hands. My dad's business had a bad few years, he said. The showroom is still open, but I think there's debt. Mom doesn't talk about it. But she offered to pay for a Belwick Club reception. She cares about appearances. That isn't payment. I know. The pasta water hissed over. I turned down the burner. Camden said, We can cancel it. We can choose somewhere else. I mean that. I believed him. But I had seen Marianne at the club. I had seen what the room meant to her. Not joy, not celebration. Proof. Her son marrying at Belwick meant the Vales were still the Vales. It meant old clients would see them under chandeliers instead of noticing the showroom's parking lot had weeds in the cracks. And I had seen Camden watching her. He wanted peace so badly it looked like love. I sat across from him. I can contribute, I said. He shook his head immediately. No. Camden. No, Elise. I'm not letting you spend your father's money on my mother's fantasy. That sentence mattered. It was one of the reasons I married him, because before he failed me later, he saw the truth then. It would not be for your mother, I said. It would be for us, for a day that doesn't begin with panic and unpaid invoices. We can do smaller. We can. I would be happy with smaller. Then let's do smaller. I looked down at my hands. My father's note lived in the desk drawer 10 feet away. Would smaller be ours? I asked. Or would it become another fight, very weak until September? Camden did not answer. I continued. I'm not offering a blank check. I'm offering structure. We set a budget. We sign contracts ourselves. We don't let anyone else promise money they don't have. He looked at me, tired and grateful and embarrassed. How much structure? I almost smiled. You're marrying an estate logistics coordinator. Too much. We set the first budget at $58,000. That number still makes my stomach tighten. It was more than I had wanted, less than Marianne expected, and only possible because of my father's savings and the life insurance I had not touched except to repair the roof. Camden contributed $12,000 from his own savings. I contributed the rest. He insisted we write it down as wedding expenses from both of us, not a gift to his family. I agreed. That was mistake number one. Not the paper. The assumption that because Camden knew the truth, he could hold it when the room got hot. We told Marianne and Graham that we would be handling the contracts directly. Marianne's face changed for less than a second, a tiny stiffening around the mouth. Then she smiled. How modern, she said. Graham looked relieved. That hurt more than I expected. Tessa said, honestly, that's probably easier. Mom gets intense. Marianne laughed as if Tessa had complimented her. I simply know what lasts in photographs. The first contract I signed was with Belwick Club for the room, basic bar, staffing, and service charges. $18,750 deposit due within 5 business days. I paid it from a separate account I had opened for the wedding, an account only in my name because Camden and I had not merged finances yet. The event director, a brisk woman named Elaine Porter, sent a receipt within 4 minutes. The second major contract was with Bellamy Comtranche Catering. Belwick had in-house packages, but Marianne insisted their plated dinners were banquet food in a tuxedo. She wanted Bellamy because Bellamy did the mayor's daughter's wedding, 3 museum galas, and 1 charity dinner, where Marianne had apparently eaten a pear salad she still described like a religious experience. I called Bellamy myself. Mr. Bellamy was not what I expected. His first name was August, but nobody called him that. He was 60, broad-shouldered, with a trimmed gray beard and voice like warm gravel. When we met at his tasting room downtown, he wore a white chef's coat with the sleeves rolled up and asked me 3 questions before he mentioned food. How many people are you feeding? Who is making decisions? And who is paying? I answered all 3. Approximately 170. Decisions should be Camden and me, though his mother will have opinions. Payment will come from me. He looked at Camden. Camden nodded. Elise is the signer. Mr. Bellamy looked back at me. Then you are my client. I cannot explain why that sentence made my shoulders drop. Maybe because he said it plainly. Maybe because he did not. Look past me to Camden, or toward Marianne, who had come with us and was already walking around the tasting room touching chairbacks. Marianne heard him and turned. We are all family, she said lightly. Mr. Bellamy smiled. Wonderful. I still need 1 client. I liked him immediately. The tasting should have been fun. Parts of it were. Camden loved the short rib. I loved the lemon herb chicken. Marianne wanted sea bass until Mr. Bellamy explained the added cost for 170 plates and the risk of overcooking during service. Tessa took pictures of each sample plate and whispered that the sauce dots looked a little suburban. Graham ate everything and said nothing. When Mr. Bellamy stepped out to check on dessert, Marianne leaned toward me. Elise, dear, the short rib is heavy. We don't want people sleepy. It's Camden's favorite, I said. Yes, but weddings are about guests. Some of the guests can survive beef. Tessa made a small sound into her napkin. Marianne smiled at me. I only want to help you avoid choices that feel too practical. Practical had become her favorite word for me. At first, it sounded neutral. Then I learned how she used it. Practical meant plain. Practical meant unrefined. Practical meant useful enough to carry boxes, not precious enough to place under lights. I took a sip of water and counted. 1, 2, 3. I like practical things, I said. They tend to work. Mr. Bellamy came back in time to hear that. He set down a plate of tiny lemon cakes and gave me a quick look I could not read then. Later, after Marianne insisted on discussing charger plates with the catering assistant, Mr. Bellamy walked Camden and me to the front. I'll send the formal proposal by Friday, he said. But I want to be clear. Any change over $500 comes to you in writing. Any guest count change comes to you. Any menu change comes to you. Thank you, I said. He lowered his voice slightly. Weddings make people generous with other people's money. I laughed because I thought he was joking. He did not laugh. That night, I printed the Bellamy proposal, $24,680 for food, staffing, rentals connected to meal service, late-night coffee, and a dessert table Marianne called non-negotiable after deciding cake alone was a little lonely. Deposit, $10,000. Second payment, $8,000. Final balance due 72 hours before event unless otherwise arranged. Changes required written approval from signer. I signed. I placed the contract in a cream folder with 3 metal prongs. I labeled the tab in my neat black handwriting. Wedding, vendor contracts and payments. That folder became the spine of everything. At the time, it was just paper. I made copies of each check, each bank transfer confirmation, each receipt. I logged dates in a spreadsheet. I tracked gratuity estimates, tax, service charges, and cancellation windows. I kept email chains in labeled folders. It was not distrust, not yet. It was habit. It was my FOSS. There's voice. Keep copies. Marianne teased me about it during a planning meeting at her dining room table. Elise brought her little office, she said when I opened the cream folder. The table was covered with linen swatches, floral samples, and a seating chart template she had printed on heavy paper. Tessa had brought an iced latte and no pen. Graham sat at the far end with reading glasses on, looking at the guest list like it might ask him for money. Camden put his hand over mine under the table. "She's organized," he said. "Of course," Marianne replied. "Very useful." Useful. A hammer is useful. A broom is useful. A woman paying for your son's wedding should be more than useful, but I smiled. I had learned by then that Marianne collected reactions. Give her anger, and she would frame it. Give her tears, and she would hang them where guests could see. Calm confused her. Calm made her work harder. The wedding planning stretched from March to September, and every month taught me something I did not want to know. In April, Marianne invited me to a floral appointment at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday, knowing I worked full-time. When I said I could not make it, she replied to the group thread, "No worries. We'll keep the vision moving." At 1:17 p.m., she sent photos of tall white arrangements with orchids. I wrote back, "They're pretty, but we discussed seasonal flowers and lower centerpieces so people can see across the table." She responded, "Totally understand your concern. These photograph better. Your concern, not our choice." I called the florist myself. The florist, a nervous woman named Priya, admitted Marianne had said I approved the upgrade. Additional cost? $3,900. I opened the cream folder, took out the floral contract, and read the change policy. Then I emailed Priya and copied Camden and Marianne. "Hi Priya, thanks for speaking with me. Please keep the original seasonal arrangements as contracted. No upgrades are approved unless they come from my email in writing." "Best, Elise." Marianne called Camden within 2 minutes. He let it go to voicemail because he was sitting beside me on my couch eating takeout noodles. The phone buzzed. Stopped. Buzzed again. I counted 5 rings each time. Camden looked sick. "You can answer," I said. "I don't want to." "You're allowed not to." That seemed to surprise him. The voicemail transcript came through. "Camden, I'm not sure why Elise is embarrassing Priya over flowers. Call me." Embarrassing. That was Marianne's word for boundaries. Camden typed a reply instead of calling. "Mom, Elise is the signer on the floral contract. Changes need to go through her. Please stop telling vendors she approved things." He showed me before he sent it. I kissed his cheek. "Thank you." He sent it. Then he turned his phone face down like it might bite. For the rest of April, Marianne was cool. Not openly angry. Worse. She became wounded. She used soft voice, slow blinks, sentences that made Camden feel like a bad son, and me feel like a security guard at my own wedding. At dinner one Sunday, she said, "I suppose I'm learning where I fit." Tessa reached for salad. "Mom, No, it's fine. Marianne smiled at me. Every bride has her process. My process is approving expenses before they're added, I said. Graham coughed into his napkin. Camden said, That's reasonable. Marianne looked at him with such gentle disappointment that he stared down at his plate. 1, 2, 3. I changed the subject to Tessa's upcoming brand retreat, and Marianne let me because she had made her point. The point was not flowers. It was that I had made Camden send a message she could not control. In May, Tessa took over bridesmaids' dresses. I had chosen 2 close friends, Lena and Rose, and Camden's sister, because I was trying. Lena was a public school art teacher with bright scarves and a laugh that filled kitchens. Rose was a pediatric nurse who could silence a room with one look if someone mistreated a server. They both knew enough about my future in-laws to be polite and alert. I wanted them to wear navy dresses in any style they liked. Simple, rewearable. Under $180. Tessa sent a link to a designer dress in mist blue for $400 before alterations. Rose texted me privately. Is she paying for these, or should I sell plasma now? I wrote back, Do not buy anything. Then I called Tessa. She answered on speaker. I could hear a smoothie blender in the background. Elise, hi, I'm literally running into Pilates. Then I'll be quick. We're staying with navy dresses under $180. A pause. Oh. Mom said mist blue softened the palette. Mom isn't wearing the dress. Tessa laughed. You're funny when you're firm. I'm usually firm. People just call it funny when they don't like it. The blender stopped. Tessa's voice cooled. I was trying to help. I know. Navy under $180. By dinner, Marianne knew. Elise, she said over roasted salmon, you don't have to make every choice about cost. I'm not, I said. I'm making this one about my friends not spending $4 and $10 on a dress they didn't choose. Tessa rolled her eyes. It's a wedding. People expect costs. Then they can expect them from someone else. Camden looked at me, and for a second there was pride in his face. Real pride. I held on to that later longer than I should have. Graham said quietly, $400 is a lot for a dress. The table went still. Marianne turned to him. It is not about the dress, she said. No one asked what it was about. We all knew. If you're listening right now and you already feel that tightness in your chest, like you want me to stand up and walk out before the worst happens, comment the word chair. Because that is what this became. Not money, not flowers, not dresses, a chair, a place, a simple sign that said I belonged beside the man I was marrying. And if you know what it feels like to have someone make you prove you deserve the obvious, stay with me. The proof was already in the folder. I just had not needed to open it yet. June brought the engagement dinner. Marianne hosted it at Belwick Club because she said it would be a sweet preview. I paid the room minimum because she told Camden she had handled it, then called me 2 days later saying there was a small timing issue with the club deposit and could I cover it temporarily. How temporary, I asked. She laughed. Goodness, Elise, you do love specifics. Yes. There was silence. I'll have Graham send something next week, she said. How much is the deposit? $2,000. I closed my eyes. Send me the invoice. Oh, it's just easier if... Send me the invoice, Marianne. She sent it 12 minutes later, $2,840 with service fees. I paid it because guests had been invited and Camden looked like someone had placed a stone on his chest. But I added it to the spreadsheet. Date, vendor, amount, reason. Requested by Marianne Vale. The engagement dinner was lovely from the outside. White tablecloths, candles, salmon with dill, a champagne toast. Marianne wore pale pink and gave a speech about how Camden had always been a boy with a generous heart and a deep respect for family. Then she looked at me. And Elise, she said, has brought such steadiness into his life. Steadiness again. Restful, practical, useful, steady. I waited for more. There was no more. My friends noticed. Lena squeezed my knee under the table. Rose stared at Marianne with the blank professional face she used for difficult parents in hospital rooms. My father's best friend, Uncle Ray, sat at the far end with his wife, June. He was not my real uncle, but he had known me since I wore Velcro shoes. He had worked with my father for 20 years. He was a large man with a white beard and a voice that always sounded like he had just come inside from cold weather. When Marianne finished speaking, Uncle Ray stood. He had not been asked to speak. That was clear from Marianne's face. He lifted his glass. Miles Marrow would have liked Camden, he said. That's not something I'd say easy, and he'd be proud of Elise, not for getting married. That's not an achievement by itself. A few people laughed softly. He'd be proud because she built a life with both feet on the ground. She knows how to love without losing her head. That's rarer than people think. My throat closed. Camden reached for my hand. Uncle Ray looked at him. You take care of our girl, he said. She comes with a lot of people who remember who showed up for her. It was not a threat. Uncle Ray did not do threats. It was a record. Marianne clapped politely when he sat down. Her smile did not reach her eyes. Later, in the ladies' room, I heard Tessa before she saw me. She was standing near the sinks with two cousins, touching up lipstick. I mean, it was sweet, she said. A little intense, but sweet. You can tell Elise's people are very blue-collar loyal. One cousin murmured, Tessa. What? I said loyal. That's nice. I stepped out of the stall. The room went silent. Tessa's mouth opened, then curved. Oh my gosh, Elise. We were just talking about the toast. I heard. Her eyes flicked to the cousins, then back to me. I meant it in a good way. Then you should practice making good things sound less like insults. One cousin looked down at her shoes. Tessa laughed. You're sensitive tonight. I'm observant tonight. I washed my hands, dried them, and walked out before she could recover. In the hallway, I stopped beneath a framed photograph of the Belwick Club golf champions from 1987 and counted my breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4. I did not tell Camden until the next day. That was my mistake. I thought I was sparing him. Really, I was giving the insult time to become smaller in my own mouth. When I told him, he closed his eyes. I'll talk to her. What will you say? That she can't talk about your family that way. And when she says she meant loyal as a compliment? He rubbed both hands over his face. I don't know. I sat beside him on the bed. Camden, I need you to know before we get married. Your mother doesn't have to like me. Your sister doesn't have to understand me. But I will not spend my life being translated down into something they can tolerate. He took my hand. I know. Do you? He looked at me then, and he was almost crying. I'm trying. I nodded. Because he was. And because I wanted trying to be enough. July was when the money started to show its teeth. Belwick sent the second installment notice. Bellamy sent the menu confirmation and payment reminder. The photographer required the final pre-event payment. The florist balance came due. The band Marianne wanted, a 6-piece group called the Halewood Set, required an extra $2,200 for a ceremony sound setup, even though we had told them reception only. Every bill came to me. Every opinion came from Marianne. That was the arrangement, though no one had admitted it out loud. I would receive an invoice, feel my stomach drop, open the cream folder, check the contract, pay what was valid, reject what was not, and update the spreadsheet. Marianne would send inspiration photos with captions like, "This feels very us, and I'm sure Bellamy can make this happen. And don't worry, I already mentioned it to Elaine." Us, mentioned. Don't worry. I began sleeping badly. Not because I could not afford what I had agreed to. I could, though it hurt. I slept badly because I could feel myself becoming the quiet bank behind Marianne's public dream. I would wake at 3:10 a.m., stare at the ceiling, and hear my father's voice. Do not give signing authority to anyone who mocks the cost. I had not given signing authority. But I had given access. Emotional access, social access. The kind where someone does not need your password because they have your fiancé's guilt. One night I got out of bed and opened the folder at my kitchen table. The house was dark except for the stove light. Rain tapped the window over the sink. I laid out the contracts in neat stacks. Venue, catering, florals, photography, music, dress alterations, transportation, engagement dinner. I added the numbers again, though I already knew them. $18,750, $10,000, $8,000, $2, $840, $3, $200, $5,500, $1,200, $2, $175. The total sat on the page like a dare. I pressed my palms flat to the table and counted the rain ticks against the glass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I pulled out my father's note from the desk drawer and placed it beside the folder. Do not beg for a chair. I did not know then how literal that sentence would become. In August, Marianne asked about the head table. We were at her house again, of course. Her dining room had become wedding command. She had placed a large printed floor plan in the center, with tiny paper rectangles for tables. Each rectangle had a number. Each seat had a pencil mark. It looked less like a reception and more like a military campaign. Camden sat beside me. Tessa stood behind Marianne with a glass of sparkling water. Graham was in the living room pretending to watch golf, close enough to hear everything and far enough to avoid being asked. Marianne tapped the long rectangle at the front of the ballroom. I've been thinking a traditional head table will photograph best. I nodded. Okay. Bride and groom in the center, of course. Parents on either side. Tessa, maid of honor, best man. Perhaps grandparents represented with framed photos on a memory table. My parents' photos will be on the memory table, I said. Yes, dear, that's what I meant. No, you said grandparents. Marianne paused. Of course your parents, too. I let that sit. Camden shifted. Where would Lena and Rose sit? With their partners at the friends' table, Marianne said. It's cleaner. My bridesmaids wouldn't sit at the head table. Tessa said. It gets crowded if everyone sits there. There are 12 seats on the diagram, I said. Marianne smiled. We don't need to decide final placement today, but she had decided. I could see it in pencil. Camden, me, Marianne, Graham, Tessa, Tessa's boyfriend. Preston, Camden's best man, Camden's uncle, 2 cousins from Marianne's side, and a blank space where my name had been written and erased once. The eraser mark was faint but visible. Soft feet, sharp eyes. I reached toward the floor plan. Marianne moved her hand over it. Elise, I'm still drafting. I can see that. Camden leaned forward. Mom, Elise's bridesmaids should be with us. Marianne sighed, not loud. Just enough. Camden, sweetheart, I am trying to balance family expectations. It's our wedding. Exactly, and weddings join families. I looked at the head table rectangle again. Then both families should be visible. A small silence. Tessa took a sip of sparkling water. Elise, you barely have family coming. Camden said. Tessa. What? She has friends. That's different. The words landed clean. No mess, no raised voice. Just the old door closing another inch. I counted 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. My father's best friend and his wife are family to me, I said. My mother's sister is flying from Arizona. Lena and Rose have shown up for me more times than most blood relatives show up for anyone. Marianne's mouth softened into sympathy. That was worse. No one is minimizing your attachments, she said. Attachments, like I was a child with a blanket. Camden stood so quickly his chair scraped. We're done for tonight. Marianne looked up at him, startled. He gathered the floor plan. For one bright second, I thought, there he is. Then Marianne said very quietly, I only wanted it to look like a family table. Camden froze. That was how she did it. She did not block the door. She made leaving look cruel. I stood and took the folder from my bag. It will look like a family table, I said. Because the people sitting there will be treating each other like family. Marianne's eyes met mine. For the first time, she did not smile. On the drive home, Camden kept one hand on the wheel and the other pressed against his thigh. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know." She shouldn't have said that. "No. I'll fix the seating." I looked out the window at the dark lawns of Belwick Heights. "Will you?" He glanced at me. "Yes. Or will you ask her to fix it and then hope she does?" His jaw tightened. "That's not fair." "Maybe not." We drove 3 blocks in silence. Then he said, "I'm on your side." I wanted to answer immediately. I wanted to reward the sentence because it was the sentence I needed. But something in me had become careful. So I asked, "When it costs you comfort?" He did not answer before we reached the red light. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then he said, "I'm trying, Elise." There it was again. Trying. I reached over and took his hand because I loved him. Because love makes you generous with unfinished people. Because I had not yet learned that being patient with someone's growth does not mean standing still while their family practices hurting you. The next morning, Camden sent a group message. "Elise and I will finalize the head table. Please send all seating suggestions to both of us, but we'll make the final call." Marianne did not reply for 6 hours. Then she wrote, "Of course. It's your day." I stared at that sentence for a long time. It's your day. It was the kind of sentence people say when they are already planning how to prove it is no. Tio. By late August, the wedding had a shape. The ceremony would be held on the Belwick Terrace at 4:30 p.m., cocktail hour inside the West Lounge. Reception in the ballroom at 6:15. Dinner at 7:00. Toasts at 7:45. Dancing at 8:30. Late-night coffee and tiny grilled cheese sandwiches at 10:00, because Camden loved them, and Mr. Bellamy said he could make them elegant without making them ridiculous. My dress hung in Lena's guest room because I did not want it in the house where Camden might see it. It was satin, simple, with a square neckline and buttons down the back. Marianne had wanted lace sleeves. Tessa had wanted a higher slit. Rose had cried when I stepped out of the fitting room, which told me I had chosen correctly. My bouquet was supposed to be white roses, blue thistle, and small sprigs of rosemary for my father, who used to put too much rosemary on roasted potatoes. The menu was set. The band was paid. The room block was confirmed. The cream folder was thick now, heavy. The left pocket held contracts. The right held receipts. The prongs held printed email confirmations in date order. On the very back page, I kept a running total, 61,438.72. I had gone over budget. Not by accident. By erosion. A linen upgrade here after Marianne told Elaine I approved it and I decided not to fight because the old linens truly were fraying. Extra coffee service because Graham's cousins were big coffee people. A shuttle from the hotel because Marianne insisted older guests could not possibly use ride shares. Welcome bags I never wanted, filled with bottled water, mints, and tiny jars of local honey at $7 each. Every time, I made a choice. Pay or fight. Pay or fight. Pay or fight. Sometimes paying felt like peace. It was not peace. It was rent on a room where I still did not own a chair. The week before the wedding, Uncle Ray came by my house to fix a loose hinge on the back door. I told him I could call someone. He told me to hand him the screwdriver and stop insulting him. He noticed the cream folder on the kitchen table. "That the wedding beast?" he asked. "That's one name for it." He tightened the hinge while I made coffee. "You good, kid?" I leaned against the counter. "Yes." He looked at me over his shoulder. I sighed. "Mostly." "That woman giving you trouble?" I did not ask which woman. Everyone knew. "She's just particular." Uncle Ray snorted. "That's what people call controlling when the house is expensive." I smiled despite myself. He finished the hinge, opened and closed the door twice, then sat at my kitchen table. He tapped the folder with one thick finger. "Your dad would like this." "The folder?" "The fact you've got one." I poured his coffee. Black, no sugar. He would probably tell me I'm spending too much. He'd definitely tell you that. Uncle Ray took the mug. Then he'd write the check if it made you happy. I sat across from him. Does it? He asked. I looked toward the living room where my wedding shoes sat in a box on the chair by the window. Ivory satin, low heel. Practical, Marianne had said when she saw them. I love Camden, I said. That's not what I asked. The kitchen went quiet. I pressed my thumb against the seam of the folder. I don't know if the wedding makes me happy anymore. I think I'm trying to get through it without losing myself. Uncle Ray's face softened. That's a bad bargain. I know. You need me to do anything? No. You sure? I nodded. He studied me for a second, then looked down at the folder again. Just remember, Ellie, paper doesn't get nervous. People do. If you've got the paper, let them sweat. I laughed, but my eyes burned. After he left, I opened the folder and added one more document. Not a contract, not a receipt. A printed copy of my father's note. Do not beg for a chair. I placed it at the very front. 3 days before the wedding, Marianne invited me to lunch. Just us girls, she wrote. I almost said no. Then I thought maybe this was her attempt at peace. Weddings make people strange. Pressure bends everyone. I told myself a woman could be difficult and still want a decent ending. We met at a place called the Glass Pear, where the salads had edible flowers, and every woman seemed to be speaking softly about someone not present. Marianne was already seated when I arrived. She wore a white blouse, pearl studs, and the expression of someone prepared to be gracious under hardship. Elise, she said, rising slightly. You look tired. Good to see you too. She blinked, then smiled. We ordered iced tea. She asked about final fittings, the hotel bags, the weather forecast. For 10 minutes, she behaved almost normally. Then she folded her hands. I wanted to speak with you before the weekend. I set down my glass. Okay. I know we have had our little differences. Little. And I know you are very independent, she continued. That is not a bad thing. It's admirable in its way. In its way. But marriage requires softness, especially when joining a family with traditions. I waited. She leaned forward. Her voice became warm enough to fool anyone at the next table. The Vales have been through a great deal these last few years. Graham's business, Camden's stress, Tessa finding her path. This wedding means more than you may understand. It is not just a party. It is a restoration. A restoration. There it was, finally. The word underneath everything. Not celebration. Restoration. You want the wedding to prove the family hasn't slipped, I said. Her smile thinned. That's a rather harsh way to put it. Is it wrong? She looked out the window for a second. Then she said, I want my son's wedding to reflect where he comes from. And where do I fit in that reflection? Elise? She sighed like I was making this difficult. You are the bride. That wasn't an answer. You are Camden's choice. Choice. Not partner, not family. Choice. I felt something settle in me. Not anger. Not yet. Something cleaner. Marianne reached across the table and touched my wrist. All I am asking is that this weekend you let things be beautiful. Let people feel comfortable. Let Camden enjoy being celebrated without tension. I looked at her hand until she removed it. By tension, I said, you mean me saying no. I mean you correcting people over every little thing. Contracts are not little. Neither is family. I counted. 1, 2, 3. Then Marianne said the line that became the drumbeat in my head for the rest of that week. Family sits at the family table. I looked at her. She smiled softly, as if she had offered wisdom instead of a warning. What does that mean? I asked. It means there are moments when we honor the people who built the room. The laugh almost came out of me. Not because it was funny, because I had paid 61,138.72 talents toward that room, and she was sitting across from me explaining who built it. But I did not open the folder. I had not brought it. I only said, "I hope you remember who paid for the room." Her face changed, only for a second. Then she withdrew into elegance. "Elise," she said, "no one likes a tally." "My father did." "That explains a great deal." The sentence was quiet. It was also the first time I truly hated her. Not disliked, not resented, hated. A small, bright hate I did not trust myself with. So I stood. Marianne looked startled. "We haven't eaten. I'm not hungry." People at nearby tables glanced over. I placed cash on the table for my iced tea. Marianne whispered, "Don't make a scene." I leaned down just enough for only her to hear me. "I'm not making one. I'm leaving yours." Then I walked out. In the parking lot, I sat in my car with both hands on the steering wheel and counted to 30. I made it to 17 before I cried. Not loud, not long, just enough for my chest to unclench. Then I wiped my face, started the car, and called Camden. He answered on the second ring. "Hey, love." I closed my eyes at the softness in his voice. "Your mother just told me family sits at the family table." Silence. I waited. "What does that mean?" he asked. That's what I asked. "What did she say?" "That there are moments to honor the people who built the room." Another silence. This one was worse. "Camden." "I'll talk to her." "No. I need you to hear me first." "I hear you." "No, listen. I am not walking into that reception and being treated like a rented accessory. I'm not. If there is something happening with the seating, you need to fix it before Saturday." "There isn't." "You don't know that." "I'll make sure." "Do not make sure by asking her if she plans to humiliate me. She will say no." He exhaled hard. "Elise," I said, "I'll handle it." I wanted to believe him. Again. Still. So I said, "Okay." There were 2 full seconds of quiet. Then he said, "I'm sorry she brought up your dad." My hand tightened on the wheel. I had not told him that part. "What?" He went quiet. "Camden." "She called me after lunch," he said slowly. I stared through the windshield at a woman pushing a stroller past a row of trimmed shrubs. "What did she say?" "She said you got upset, that you brought up money, that she made a comment about your dad's habits." I told her it was out of line. Her word was habits? "Elise?" "What else did she say?" He did not answer fast enough. There are silences that hide. This one hid badly. "She said maybe the stress was getting to you." I laughed once. It sounded nothing like me. The stress. I didn't agree. "But you listened." "She's my mother." "And I'm your fiancé." "I know." "Do you?" The words came out before I could soften them. He sounded hurt. "That's not fair." Maybe it was not. But fair had started to feel like another expensive thing I was buying alone. I drove home without turning on music. When I got inside, I placed my keys in the blue bowl by the door, took off my shoes, washed my hands, and opened the cream folder. I did not cry that time. I made copies. I copied everything that could speak if I got too tired. The Belwick contract, the Bellamy contract, the florist emails, the payment confirmations from my bank, the engagement dinner invoice Marianne had called a small timing issue, the menu approval with my signature, the seating emails where Camden and I had said we would finalize the head table, the voicemail transcript where Marianne said I had embarrassed Priya over flowers, the text where she asked me to cover the club deposit temporarily. I did not know what I was preparing for. That is the honest truth. People like to imagine a calm woman has a plan from the start. They want to believe restraint is strategy. Sometimes restraint is just the last chair left in your own head, and you sit there because standing up would mean breaking something. That night, I did not plan a public reversal. I did not imagine Mr. Bellamy standing beside me with his clipboard. I did not picture Marianne's mouth opening and closing like she could not find the right room to rearrange. I only knew something was wrong, and my father had taught me that when something felt wrong, you put the paper in order before the room filled with noise. At 9:42 p.m., Camden came over. I heard his car before he knocked. The Linden Street maples were full and dark outside my front window. His headlights slid across the living room wall, then disappeared. I stood in the kitchen with the folder open on the table, wearing sweatpants and the old West Haven high sweatshirt I slept in when I needed to feel 17 and safe. He knocked twice. I counted 3 breaths before I opened the door. Camden looked exhausted. His tie was loose. His hair had thick dyes. At pushed-back look from his hands running through it all day. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. He saw the folder before he said anything else. "What is all this?" "Paper." His eyes moved over the stacks. "Elise, I'm checking records." "For what?" "For myself." That hurt him. I saw it. I also did not pick it up. He stood at the end of the kitchen table, one hand on the back of a chair. Not sitting. Not leaving. The house hummed softly around us. Refrigerator, old pipes, rain beginning again outside. "I talked to her," he said. "And?" He looked down. "She said you misunderstood." I laughed quietly. Of course she did. She said family table meant the full family table, like both sides. Did you believe her? He rubbed his jaw. I wanted to. That's not what I asked. His shoulders sank. No. One word. Small, late, but real. I waited. He pulled out the chair and sat across from me. She also said you've been keeping score, that the money has made you controlling. The room went very still. I looked at the folder, at the printed contracts, at my father's note lying on top. Did she say controlling or did you? His face changed. She did. And you came here to tell me? I came here because I don't know how to fix this. There it was. The boy again. The boy waiting for the room to relax. I loved him so much in that moment that it made me angry. "Camden," I said softly, "you fix it by choosing what is true and standing there." He swallowed. "I choose you." "No, that is not the same thing." His eyes lifted to mine. "Choosing me in private is easy. Choosing what is true when your mother is disappointed, when your father goes quiet, when Tessa laughs, when the room looks at you, that is the part I need. I know. I don't think you do." He leaned forward. "Then tell me exactly what you need." I almost answered too fast. Almost said, "Protect me. Stop her. Make this feel safe." But those were too big and too vague, and vague things had been killing me all year. So I opened the folder and pulled out the printed floor plan from Marianne's dining room. The one Camden had taken. The one with the faint eraser mark where my name had been. I placed it between us. "I need to see the final seating chart tomorrow," I said. "Not hear about it. See it. I need my place at the head table beside you. I need my people seated with respect. I need no last-minute vendor changes unless I approve them. And I need you to tell your mother that if she embarrasses me at our wedding, I will not pretend it did not happen." He looked at the eraser mark. His mouth tightened. "I can do that. Can you?" "Yes." I nodded once. "Then do it tomorrow." He reached across the table for my hand. I let him take it. His thumb moved over my knuckles, gentle and familiar. "I hate that this is what the week feels like," he said. "So do I. I wanted you to be happy. I wanted us to be honest." He closed his eyes. We sat like that for a long time. His hand around mine, the folder between us. Rain tapping the window. The wedding 3 days away, already heavier than a day should be. When he left, he kissed my forehead. "I'll fix it," he whispered. I watched him walk to his car. I watched the headlights turn on. I watched him pull away from the curb and disappear under the trees. Then I locked the door, sat back down, and made one more copy of the catering contract. The next morning was Thursday. At 8:08 a.m., Camden texted me, "Going to Mom's at lunch. I'll get final seating." At 8:09, I replied, "Thank you." At 8:13, Marianne texted the wedding group thread. "Final details are coming together beautifully. Let's all take deep breaths and remember, this is about love." I stared at that word. Love. People use love like a tablecloth. They throw it over whatever they do not want you to inspect. At 11:52, Camden called me from his car. "I have the chart," he said. I was in the supply room at work, surrounded by bankers' boxes and the smell of cardboard. My supervisor Janine had told me to go home early, but I had stayed because cataloging a collection of antique clocks was easier than refreshing my phone. "Send me a picture," I said. "I will. I just wanted to tell you first." My pulse moved into my throat. "Elise, your seat is next to me. Lena and Rose are at the front table with their partners nearby. Uncle Ray and June are at table 2, right by the dance floor. Your aunt is with them." I shut my eyes. The relief was so sharp it almost hurt. "Okay," I said. "I told Mom no changes." "How did she take it?" He exhaled. "Not great." But I said it. "What did she say?" "She said, 'I hope Elise understands what family means by Saturday.'" There it was again, the drumbeat under the carpet. Family sits at the family table. I opened my eyes and looked at the rows of boxes, names, dates, inventory tags. Lives reduced to lists so people could fight less over what remained. "What did you say?" I asked. "I said you are my family." For a second I could not speak. Then I said, "Thank you." He sent the photo. I zoomed in until the names blurred. Elise. There I was. Seat 2. Beside Camden. A chair. A little printed chair on a little paper map. I hated how much it meant. That afternoon, Mr. Bellamy called. I answered from my car because I had finally left work and was sitting in the parking lot with my shoes off, letting the air conditioner blow on my face. "Elise Marrow," he said. "I am confirming final service numbers and Saturday timing." His voice was steady, businesslike. It calmed me more than any spa day could have. "Hi, Mr. Bellamy. Yes, 168 confirmed, including vendor meals." "That's what I have. Final menu unchanged, short rib and lemon herb chicken. Pear salad, rosemary potatoes, green beans, dessert table, late night coffee and grilled cheese service." "Yes. Final balance is scheduled for tomorrow at noon. I have it ready." "I know you do," he said. Something in his tone made me sit up. "Is there an issue?" A pause. Not an issue, a note. I waited. "We received a call this morning asking whether the final invoice could be transferred to a different responsible party for appearance purposes." I did not move. "Who called?" "I think you know. Marianne." "Yes." The air conditioner blew cold against my knees. "What does appearance purposes mean?" "She said the family preferred the reception vendors to show veil billing on any visible paperwork." I laughed once, softly. Not because anything was funny. "And what did you tell her?" "I told her my contract is with you. My invoice is to you. My final service release is signed by you. We do not rewrite payment history because someone dislikes the optics." I placed my free hand over my eyes. "Thank you. There is more." Of course there was. I lowered my hand. "She also asked if I could direct any day of payment questions to Graham Vale." "Payment questions?" "Yes. What payment questions would there be?" I asked the same. "And?" "She said she did not want guests to get the impression that you had been burdened." "Burdened?" That was the word she chose for me paying over $60,000 toward her restoration. Mr. Bellamy continued. I told her guests do not see invoices unless someone creates a reason. I looked through my windshield at a man loading groceries into a blue hatchback. Did she create a reason? Not with us. With anyone else? I can't speak for anyone else. I heard the care in his answer. The boundary. The warning. Mr. Bellamy, I said, I need to ask you something clearly. Go ahead. If someone attempts to change service, seating, payment responsibility, or the final release on Saturday, who has authority? You. Not Camden? Not unless you add him in writing. Not Marianne? No. Not Graham? No. My breath left me slowly. What happens if I do not sign the final service release? Then we do not begin plated dinner service until the matter is resolved. I closed my eyes. That was not a weapon. Not yet. It was a fact. Facts are harmless until someone lies beside them. I'm not planning to disrupt dinner, I said. I did not think you were. I don't want drama. I did not think you wanted that either. His voice softened then. Elise, I have catered weddings for 32 years. I have seen drunk uncles, runaway grooms, mothers who wore white, fathers who refused checks, sisters who fainted for attention, and one best man who tried to bring a live hawk into a ballroom. You are not the dramatic one here. Despite everything, I smiled. A hawk? Long story. Bad bird. I breathed out. He said, Bring your folder Saturday. I went still again. My folder? You seem like a person with a folder. I looked at the passenger seat. The cream folder lay there, buckled in by accident because I had tossed my bag beside it and the strap had caught. I am. Bring it. Do you think I'll need it? I think people who ask to change billing for appearance purposes may also care about appearances once the room is full. I stared at the folder. Okay, I said. And Elise? Yes? Truth is a scalpel, not a hammer. You do not have to swing it. Just keep it clean. I did not cry until after we hung up. If you are at the part of the story where you can feel the trap before I fully saw it, comment the word receipt. Because receipts do not care who has pearls on. They do not care whose house has columns. They do not care if someone says family in a soft voice while reaching for your chair. A receipt only says what happened. And sometimes that is the most dangerous thing in a room built on pretending. Friday should have been simple. Rehearsal at 5:00 p.m. Dinner at 6:30. Hotel welcome drinks after, for out-of-town guests. Sleep, wake. Marry Camden. That was the list I wrote in my planner. I underlined sleep twice. At 9:15 Friday morning, the florist called to confirm delivery. White roses, blue thistle, rosemary, Priya said. Bridal bouquet, 3 bridesmaids, boutonnieres, ceremony pieces, reception centerpieces. Correct. There was a tiny pause. And no substitution to white orchids? I closed my eyes. No substitution. I thought so, Priya whispered. I just wanted to confirm with you. Who asked? I'd rather not. Priya. A sigh. Marianne said rosemary in a bridal bouquet looked like kitchen garnish. For a second, I saw my father standing at our stove in the old house, shaking dried rosemary into a pan like he was blessing it. My voice stayed even. The rosemary stays. Yes, I already told her I needed your approval. Thank you. At 10:40, Elaine from Belwick called. Elise, I have a quick note on table placement. I set down the stack of programs I had been tying with ribbon at my kitchen table. What note? There was a request to shift Table 2 farther back to make room for a family photo display. Table 2 is my family. Silence. Yes, Elaine said carefully. That's why I'm calling you. Who requested it? Elise. I know. Marianne. I can only say the request did not come from you or Camden. I pressed the heel of my hand against my forehead. Do not move Table 2. Understood. And Elaine? Yes? If there are any more changes requested by anyone other than me or Camden, please email both of us before doing anything. I already planned to. That was the thing. The vendors had started protecting me before the people becoming my family did. At noon, I paid the final balance to Caterer, $6,680.72. I watched the bank confirmation APR on my screen. I printed it. 3 copies, one for the folder, one for my wedding day emergency envelope, one because my hands needed something to do. At 12:17, Mr. Bellamy emailed. Final payment received. Thank you. See you tomorrow. At 12:19, Marianne texted Camden and me. So excited for tonight. Let's leave all stress behind us and focus on becoming one family. I looked at the message until the words lost shape. One family. Family sits at the family table. Do not beg for a chair. At 4:10 p.m., Lena arrived at my house with garment bags, a steamer, and a paper sack full of sandwiches because she said everyone involved in weddings became stupid about food. Rose arrived 6 minutes later with a first aid kit and 3 tiny bottles of Prosecco. I opened the door, and both of them stopped. What happened? Rose asked. Nothing. Lena set down the garment bags. Your face says felony. No felonies. Okay. Misdemeanor? I laughed, and the sound surprised me. We sat in my living room, eating turkey sandwiches off paper plates. I told them about Marianne's lunch. The billing request. The rosemary. Table 2. Lena's eyes filled with angry tears. Rose did not cry. Rose became quiet in a way that made me glad she had chosen nursing instead of organized crime. She's going to do something tomorrow, Rose said. I know. Lena wiped under one eye. Does Camden know all of this? Most of it. Most? He knows enough. Rose leaned forward. Elise. I know. Do you? I looked at my 2 friends. My chosen family. Navy dresses hanging over my doorway. Sandwich crumbs on paper plates. My father's locket warm against my skin. I'm tired of making him pass tests 3 days before I marry him, I said. Rose softened. Honey, the test is already happening. Lena reached for my hand. What do you need from us? That question nearly undid me. Not advice, not panic, not outrage first. What do you need? I need you to watch, I said. Always, Rose said. I need you to tell me if I'm imagining something. You're not, Lena said. I need you not to start anything. Rose made a face. I mean it. Fine. And if something happens tomorrow, I need you to stay close but let me handle it. Lena squeezed my fingers. With the folder? I looked toward the kitchen table. Yes. Rose nodded once. Then we watch. We stay close. We do not stab anyone with a boutonniere pin. Thank you. I said boutonniere pin. I left options open. The rehearsal began at 5:07 because Tessa was late. The terrace at Belwick looked beautiful in the gold evening light. Rows of white chairs faced the stone arch where Camden and I would stand. The golf course rolled away behind it, green and perfect and false. Staff moved quietly in black uniforms. Somewhere inside, glassware clinked. Camden was already there when I arrived. He wore navy slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. When he saw me, his face opened in that way I loved. Relief, joy. The boy and the man both reaching. He came to me and kissed my cheek. You okay? I'm here. That's not an answer. It's the answer I have. His eyes searched mine. I sent Mom the final seating chart again, he said. I told her no changes. When? This afternoon. What did she say? She sent a thumbs up. I almost laughed. A thumbs up from Marianne was never agreement. It was a receipt that she had received opposition. Marianne stood near the arch speaking with the coordinator, wearing a pale blue dress and her pearls. Graham stood beside her with his hands in his pockets, watching the grass. Tessa arrived at 5:12 in sunglasses, carrying an iced coffee and complaining about traffic, though she lived 9 minutes away. The coordinator, a young woman named Beth, clapped her hands. "Okay, everyone, let's place the processional." We lined up. My Aunt Camille, who had flown in from Arizona, stood in the front row dabbing her eyes before anything happened. Uncle Ray gave me a thumbs up. June waved a tissue. Lena and Rose stood behind me, steady as fence posts. Marianne watched all of it. When Beth placed family for the recessional, Marianne stepped in. "Actually, Graham and I should exit directly after the couple." Beth checked her clipboard. "I have the wedding party first, then parents. The veils traditionally follow the couple." I looked at Camden. He looked at Beth. "Use the order on the clipboard," he said. Marianne's face did not move. That was how I knew she was furious. "Of course," she said. "Family sits at the family table. Family follows the couple. Family builds the room. Family, family, family." By rehearsal dinner, I could feel the word losing meaning. Marianne had used it so often it became a key she kept trying in every lock. The dinner was held in a private room at an Italian restaurant called Sorella. Brick walls, low lights, framed black and white photos of Rome. Camden and I had chosen it together months before, one of the few decisions that still felt like ours. The menu was simple: pasta, chicken, salad, tiramisu. My father would have liked it. Not the price, maybe, but the food. Graham hosted because tradition said the groom's parents hosted. I paid the deposit because reality said otherwise. I had not told anyone that except Camden. That night, Graham stood to give a toast. He held his wineglass with both hands. "I'm not much for speeches," he began. Marianne smiled up at him, warning dressed as affection. He cleared his throat. "Camden, I'm proud of you. You've become a good man, better than I've sometimes shown you how to be." The room quieted. Camden looked down. Graham turned toward me. "Elise, you are steady." I almost smiled at the word. "Of course." He paused, and something changed in his face. "No," he said. "That's not enough. You are kind, and you are capable, and I have seen you handle things this year with more grace than most people deserved." Marianne's head turned slowly. Graham kept going, though his voice shook. "I'm glad my son found someone who knows what things cost. Not just money. Peace. Loyalty. Words. All of it." My throat tightened. Marianne set her glass down. Tessa looked at her plate. Graham lifted his glass. "To Camden and Elise." People echoed it. Camden reached under the table and took my hand. For one small moment, I let myself believe the worst had passed. That was another mistake. After dinner, people drifted into little groups. Lena and Rose went to talk with my aunt. Camden got pulled into a conversation with his best man and 2 cousins. I stepped into the hallway to call the hotel and confirm my wake-up call because details calmed me. The hallway outside the private room was narrow, with dark wainscoting and framed wine labels. Near the restrooms, there was a service alcove half hidden by a tall plant. I stood beside it, phone to my ear, listening to the hotel clerk confirm 7:00 a.m. Then I heard Marianne, not loud, not whispering either. Marianne rarely whispered. Whispering suggested guilt. She spoke softly enough to seem private and clearly enough to be obeyed. "I don't care what Camden said. Beth is 24 and overwhelmed. She'll use the chart I hand her." My body went cold. I stepped back into the shadow beside the plant. Tessa answered. "Mom, if he notices, he won't before dinner. Photos, entrances, first dance, toasts. By the time anyone sits, the room will be moving." Graham said something I could not hear. Marianne snapped, still soft. "Do not start, Graham. You had your little speech." My hand tightened around the phone. The hotel clerk was saying, "Ma'am, are you still there?" I ended the call without answering. Tessa said, "Where are you putting her?" There was a pause, a small rustle of paper. Table 19. I knew the floor plan. Table 19 was near the kitchen doors. distant Vale cousins, two of Graham's former showroom contacts, a college friend of Tessa's who had RSVP'd late. Tessa let out a nervous laugh. That's far. It is appropriate. Graham's voice came through then, low and strained. She's the bride. She is Camden's wife after tomorrow, Marianne said. That does not make her the center of the Vale family. My heart began to pound so hard I could hear it. Tessa said, And who sits next to Cam? Preston will move down. You'll sit beside your brother. It photographs better. Mom, it does. Graham said. Marianne, this is cruel. The silence after that was the loudest thing in the hallway. Then Marianne said, Cruel is letting that girl turn our son's wedding into a memorial for her father and a balance sheet. Cruel is watching her make Camden choose against his own mother over flowers and chairs and rosemary. I have given enough. That girl. Flowers and chairs and rosemary. Given enough. I leaned against the wall because my knees had gone strange. Tessa's voice was smaller. What if Bellamy says something? He knows she's paying. Marianne laughed once, dry and light. Vendors do not involve themselves in family seating. Family seating. Family sits at the family table. Then she said it again, like she was closing a box. Family sits at the family table. She can sit with the guests. I looked down at my phone, 12:46 p.m. I remember the time because I stared at it while the last soft part of me went quiet. Not dead. Quiet. There is a difference. I waited until their footsteps moved away. I counted them. Marianne's heels first. 6 clicks. Tessa's lighter steps behind her. Graham slower, dragging almost. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When I stepped back into the private room, Rose saw my face from across the space. She started toward me. I shook my head once. Not here. Camden was laughing at something his cousin said, his head tilted back, eyes closed, easy for the first time all day. I watched him for 4 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I walked past him, past the dessert table, past Marianne standing with a glass of red wine and the face of a woman who had already won something in her mind. I went outside. The air smelled like garlic from the restaurant vents and wet pavement. I stood under the striped awning and called Mr. Bellamy. He answered on the 3rd ring. Bellamy. It's Elise. His voice changed. What happened? I told him. Not all of it. Enough. There was no gasp, no outrage, just silence, then paper moving. Table 19, he said. Yes. Kitchen doors? Yes. And they intend to hand the coordinator a different chart? Yes. He exhaled through his nose. Do you have the approved chart? Yes. Bring it. I will. Do you have my contract? Yes. Bring it. I will. Do you have payment records? Yes. Bring them. I looked through the restaurant window. Camden was scanning the room now, looking for me. Mr. Bellamy, I said, I don't want to ruin my own wedding. He answered gently. Then don't. I don't know what that means. It means do not move first. Do not accuse anyone in advance. Do not threaten. Let the day be the day. If the approved seating is honored, nothing happens. If someone attempts to remove you from your own place, ask for the person responsible for service. That will be me. My throat tightened. And then? And then I will ask the signer of the contract to confirm whether dinner service should proceed under the altered arrangement. I closed my eyes. That sounds public. It will only be public if they make the insult public. There it was. A clean line. Truth is a scalpel, not a hammer. Okay, I whispered. Elise. Yes? Are you safe? The question caught me off guard. I looked at the door, at the warm light, At the people inside who would call this family tomorrow. Yes. Good. Then sleep if you can. Eat breakfast. Keep your phone charged, and do not let anyone separate you from that folder. When I went back inside, Camden was near the door. Where were you? Outside. What's wrong? I looked at his face. The worry was real. The blindness was real too. I wanted to tell him right there. I wanted to say, your mother is planning to move me to table 19. Your sister will sit beside you. Your father knows, and called it cruel. They are going to use the noise of the day to make me look like an afterthought. But I heard Marianne's voice. By the time anyone sits, the room will be moving. If I told Camden, he would confront her. She would deny it. She would cry. He would spend the night in the old trap, trying to prove a thing she had not yet done. And by morning, I would be the woman who caused a fight before the wedding over a seating chart she misunderstood. I had seen enough estates to know the value of letting a person sign their own lie. So I said, I'm tired. He touched my arm. Tomorrow will be better. I looked over his shoulder. Marianne was watching us. Will it? I asked. Camden kissed my forehead. It has to be. No, I thought. It does not. That night, Lena, Rose, and I slept at the hotel in a 2-room suite that smelled like fresh carpet and lavender cleaning spray. My dress hung from the closet door. My shoes sat beneath it. The cream folder sat on the desk, beside my phone charger and a glass of water. At 11:30, Lena fell asleep with the television still murmuring. At 12:05, Rose came into my room and sat on the edge of the bed. You're awake. Yes. You heard something. I looked at the ceiling. Yes. She waited. So I told her. Not loudly, not dramatically. I told her like I was reading minutes from a meeting. Table 19. Tessa beside Camden. Marianne's alternate chart. Family sits at the family table. Rose did not interrupt once. When I finished, she stood, walked to the desk, picked up the cream folder, and brought it to me. Then this sleeps next to you. I almost smiled. It's paper, Rose. No, it's a spine. She placed it on the nightstand. Then she said, Do you want to marry him tomorrow? The question entered the room and took up all the air. I turned my head toward her. I love him. That is not what I asked. Everyone kept asking me the right question too late. I closed my eyes. I don't know how to answer. Rose sat down again. Then answer smaller. Do you want to walk toward him? I saw Camden in the conservatory, stumbling over his proposal. Camden sending the flower text. Camden saying, You are my family. Camden freezing under Marianne's sadness. Camden apologizing. Camden trying. Camden not knowing that trying does not stop a knife if you never reach for it. Yes, I said. Rose nodded. Do you want to walk toward that family? No. Then Tom, Oro, walk toward him. And if he steps back into them, keep walking past. My eyes burned. That sounds hard. It is. I'm so tired. I know. She squeezed my foot through the blanket. I'll be 3 steps behind you all day. Lena too? Lena may be 1 step behind you because she is small and furious. I laughed into my pillow. It came out wet and broken, but it was still a laugh. After Rose went back to her room, I opened the folder one more time. My father's note was on top. Do not fight in doorways. Do not beg for a chair. If you are wanted, they will make room. If you are used, they will make excuses. I read it until the words blurred. Then I slept for 3 hours and 42 minutes. My wedding day began at 6:18 a.m. before the alarm. The room was gray-blue. Quiet. Lena was snoring softly through the wall. Somewhere below us, a truck backed up with 3 faint beeps. My phone showed 7 missed messages, all from vendors confirming things I had already confirmed. Nothing from Marianne. Nothing from Camden except 1 text sent at 12:22 a.m. Can't sleep. I love you. See you at the end of the aisle. I held the phone to my chest. For 1 minute, I let myself be only a bride. Not a client, not a signer, not a woman bracing for insult. A bride. I showered. I dried my hair. I ate half a banana because Rose stood in the bathroom doorway and watched until I swallowed. Lena steamed the dress while playing old Motown songs softly from her phone. Rose lined up makeup brushes with medical precision. My Aunt Camille arrived at 8:10 carrying coffee, safety pins, and a small blue handkerchief that had belonged to my mother. "For your bouquet," she said. I touched the faded cotton, tiny embroidered flowers along one edge. I had not seen it in years. "How do you have this?" "Your father gave it to me after she passed. Said I'd know when you needed it." I had promised myself I would not cry before makeup. I broke that promise immediately. The photographer arrived at 9 o'clock. Her name was Mina, and she had kind eyes and quiet shoes. She took pictures of the dress, the rings, my shoes, the locket, my mother's handkerchief, my father's note folded beside the bouquet ribbon. "What's this?" she asked, pointing gently to the note. "My dad." "Do you want it photographed?" I hesitated. Then I said, "Yes." Because the dead deserve proof they were present. At 10:15, Priya delivered the flowers herself. The bouquet was exactly right. White roses, blue thistle, rosemary, and my mother's handkerchief wrapped into the ribbon. I lifted it and smelled the rosemary first. For a moment, I was back in the Linden Street kitchen, my father opening the oven, saying, "I overdid the potatoes again, Ellie, but they'll keep vampires away." I pressed the stems to my chest. "Thank you," I whispered. Priya's eyes flicked to the desk. The folder sat there. She looked back at me and nodded once. At 11:05, Beth, the coordinator, came to the suite with the day's timeline. She was young, yes, but not foolish. Her hair was pulled into a neat bun, and she had 3 pens clipped to her clipboard. "Elise," she said, "I want to confirm I have your approved seating chart." She turned the clipboard toward me. It was the right one. My name beside Camden. Lena and Rose placed with honor. Uncle Ray, June, and Aunt Camille at table 2. I felt my shoulders loosen. "Yes," I said. "That's the approved chart." Beth lowered her voice. "If anyone hands me another one, I will bring it to you." "Thank you." She looked nervous, then brave. "Mrs. Vale has already asked where I'll be staging the final table cards." Of course she had. "And what did you tell her?" "That they're under my supervision." "Good." Beth nodded and left. Rose closed the door behind her. "She's on the watch list," Rose said. "Beth?" "No, Pearl Voldemort." "Rose." "What?" "I'm being respectful. I didn't say it to her face." Lena came in carrying my earrings. "I might." "No one is saying Pearl Voldemort to Marianne," I said. They both looked disappointed. At noon, I put on the dress. There are moments so tender they feel rude to describe in a story about cruelty, but they happen too, and I refuse to give Marianne the power to erase them. Lena buttoned the back slowly, her fingers careful. Rose cried and blamed allergies, though we were indoors. Aunt Camille fastened my mother's locket around my neck. Mina took pictures from the corner without making us perform. The satin settled over me like water. The dress fit. My hands shook anyway. "You look like yourself," Lena said. That was the best compliment she could have given me. At 1:20, I sat by the window and wrote Camden a note. "Cam, I am walking toward you today because I love you. I hope you walk toward me too, not just at the aisle, in every room after." I sealed it in a white envelope and gave it to Beth. "Please make sure Camden gets this before the ceremony." She tucked it into her clipboard. "I will." At 1:46, my phone buzzed. "Marianne." I let it ring. A voicemail appeared. I did not play it. Then a text. "Elise, dear, there are a few small day of adjustments. Nothing to worry about. Call me when you can." Rose saw my face. "No," she said. "I didn't say anything. You had the forehead." "What forehead?" "The I might answer a manipulator forehead." I set the phone down At 2:05, Mr. Bellamy called. "Good afternoon, bride." His voice made me breathe. "Good afternoon, caterer." "I have arrived at Belwick. Staff is setting menu on schedule. Final payment confirmed. I have my copy of the contract and release. Thank you." Mrs. Vale attempted to discuss the timing of dinner service. My eyes closed. What timing? She suggested dinner be delayed until after extended family photographs in the ballroom. That's not the schedule. No. What did you tell her? That dinner timing changes require your approval. And? She asked if I understood this was a Vale wedding. I opened my eyes. Rose was watching me. "What did you say?" "I said my paperwork says Marrow Vale." I almost smiled. "Thank you. Do you have your folder?" "Yes. Keep it with someone you trust during the ceremony." I looked at Rose. "I will." At 2:30, we left for Belwick. The sky was clear after 2 days of rain. The road still shone in low places. Lena rode beside me in the back of the car, holding the bouquet upright like it was a torch. Rose followed in her own car with the folder in a canvas tote on the passenger seat belted in like a child. When the Belwick Club came into view, my stomach tightened. White columns, dark shutters, perfect lawn, the restoration house. Beth met us at the side entrance and guided us to the bridal holding room. She looked pale. "What happened?" I asked. She glanced at Lena and Rose, then at me. "Nothing has changed." That was not an answer. "Beth," she swallowed. Mrs. Vale asked one of the banquet captains to place alternate cards at the head table. He brought them to me. I removed them. My hand tightened around the bouquet. "Where are they?" "In my office." "Names?" She looked pained. "Elise, maybe after the ceremony." "Names." Beth glanced down at the clipboard. At the head table, Camden, Tessa, Preston, Marianne, Graham, Graham's brother, 2 cousins, best man, maid of honor, and no bride place card. The room narrowed. Lena whispered, "No." Rose took 1 step closer to me. I counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The bouquet smelled like rosemary. "Where was my place card?" I asked. Beth did not answer. I already knew. "Table 19, I said. Her eyes filled. "I'm sorry." I nodded. Not because it was fine. It was not fine. Something in me had just become very, very still. "Put the approved cards out," I said. I did. "If they are touched again, tell Mr. Bellamy." Beth blinked. "Mr. Bellamy?" "Yes." Rose handed me the canvas tote. I opened it and looked at the cream folder inside. Then I closed it. "I'm going to marry Camden now." Lena stared at me. "Elise." "I am." Rose's voice was low. "Are you sure?" I looked at both of them. "No. But I am clear." That was the truest thing I had said all day. At 3:55, Uncle Ray came to walk me down the aisle. He wore a dark suit that looked uncomfortable on him and a blue tie June had probably chosen. When he saw me, his face changed so deeply I had to look away. "Your dad," he said, then stopped. "I know." He cleared his throat. "You got your paper?" I almost laughed. "Rose has it." "Good." He held out his arm. At 4:27, Beth lined us up. Through the terrace doors, I could see guests turning in their chairs. White flowers, stone arch, blue sky, Camden standing at the front in a dark suit, hands clasped, face pale. Music began. Lena walked. Then Rose. Then Tessa, smiling like a woman in a photograph of herself. She did not look at me. The doors closed briefly. Uncle Ray leaned down. "Last exit before the ride starts," he said. I looked up at him. Would Dad be mad? "At the bill?" "Yes." I smiled. "At you?" Uncle Ray shook his head. "Never." The doors opened. Everyone stood. And there, at the end of the aisle, Camden saw me. Not the dress, not the flowers. Me. His face broke open. His eyes filled. His mouth trembled once before he caught it. He looked like a man watching the truth arrive and knowing it might not stay unless he became worthy of it. I walked. I counted steps without meaning to. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rose and Lena on my left. Marianne in the front row on Camden's side, wearing pale blue and an expression polished smooth. Graham beside her, eyes wet. Tessa at the arch, bouquet held too high. Guests smiling, camera clicking. Rosemary in my hands. My mother at my throat. My father in paper waiting behind the terrace doors. 7, 8, 9. Camden reached for me. Uncle Ray placed my hand in his. "Take care," he said. "Not take care of her. Take care." Camden nodded, like he understood both meanings. The ceremony was beautiful. That is another truth I refuse to surrender. The officiant spoke gently. The breeze moved through the flowers. Camden's vows were not perfect, but they were his. He said I had taught him that peace without honesty was only quiet. He said he wanted to spend his life becoming braver beside me. When he said braver, his voice caught. My vows were simple. I promised to tell the truth kindly when I could, clearly when I must. I promised to build a home where love did not need an audience. I promised to stand beside him, but not disappear into him. Marianne looked down at her lap. When the officiant said, "You may kiss your bride," Camden took my face in both hands and kissed me like he was relieved I had made it across a bridge. People clapped. For 37 minutes after that, I let myself be happy. Photos on the terrace, hugs, Aunt Camille crying into my shoulder, Uncle Ray pretending not to cry, Camden whispering, "You're beautiful," 3 separate times like he kept forgetting he had said it already. Lena fixing my train, Rose watching every doorway, Graham touching my arm once and saying, "Your father would be proud," so quietly Marianne could not hear. Cocktail hour began at 5:20 in the West Lounge. Belwick staff passed crab cakes, stuffed mushrooms, and little spoons of risotto. Glasses clinked, guests laughed. The room smelled like perfume, butter, and rain lifting off the terrace stones. I held ginger ale because I wanted a clear head, though Marianne told 3 separate people I was too nervous to enjoy champagne. At 5:48, Beth found May in near the window. "All approved cards are still placed," she said quietly. "Thank you. Mrs. Vale has asked to see the ballroom before doors open." "No." Beth looked relieved to be told. At 6:04, Camden and I were tucked into a side hallway for the grand entrance lineup. The wedding party gathered around us. Tessa stood with Preston, whispering sharply. Marianne appeared near the ballroom doors, speaking to a banquet captain I did not know. Rose saw her too. "Elise," she murmured. "I see." Mr. Bellamy emerged from the ballroom then, wearing a black suit instead of a chef's coat. He looked calm enough to be carved from wood. He spoke to Marianne. She smiled. He did not. She gestured toward the head table. He looked at something in his hand. A clipboard. Then he turned and looked down the hallway at me. Not dramatically, not urgently, just a look. The scalpel was clean. I looked at Camden. He was laughing at something his best man had said, one hand resting lightly on my back. I wondered, not for the first time that day, whether I should tell him. Then the ballroom doors opened. The bandleader announced the wedding party, Lena and her husband, Rose and her boyfriend, Tessa and Preston, best man and his wife. Applause. Then, for the first time, Mr. and Mrs. Camden Vale. The room rose. Camden squeezed my hand. We walked in under the chandeliers. The ballroom was exactly as planned. Tall windows darkening toward evening. Candles lit, white and blue flowers low enough for conversation. Table 2 near the dance floor. Head table at the front, dressed in ivory linen with greenery along the edge. I saw the place cards as we approached. Camden Vale, Elise Marrow Vale. Mine was there. For 1 second, relief hit so hard, I almost missed the detail. The chair. There was no chair behind my place card. For a second, I thought I had misunderstood what I was seeing. The place card was there. My name, in black calligraphy on thick ivory paper, tucked into a tiny brass holder. Elise Marrow Vale. Proof, at least on paper, that I belonged at the center of the room beside the man I had just married. But behind it, there was only empty space. Every other place at the head table had a chair. Camden's chair, pushed in neatly. Marianne's, Graham's, Tessa's, Preston's, the best man's. Lena's and Rose's, just as we had fixed it. A long line of polished wooden chairs with ivory cushions standing at attention beneath the chandeliers. Then the gap. My gap. Small from a distance. Almost invisible if you did not know where to look. Perfect, really. The kind of cruelty that could be blamed on staff. On confusion. On a last-minute mistake. On one of those silly wedding day mishaps everyone laughs about later, while the person it happened to remembers the shape of the room forever. Camden was still smiling at the applauding guests. His hand was warm around mine. People were standing, clapping, lifting phones. The band played something bright and brassy. The photographer moved backward in front of us, camera clicking. I looked at the empty space and counted. 1, 2, 3. The applause thinned as people began sitting. Camden took one step toward the head table, then felt me stop. He turned. Elise? I kept my eyes on the gap. His gaze followed mine. I watched his face change. Not all at once. First confusion, then a little frown, then recognition, sharp and ugly. He looked toward the side of the ballroom where Beth stood frozen with her clipboard, then toward his mother. Marianne was standing near the front table, one hand resting lightly on the back of her own chair. She was smiling at a guest. A soft smile. A calm smile. The smile of a woman who had arranged everything except the consequence. Tessa saw the chair before anyone else at the table did. Her eyes widened. She looked at Marianne. Marianne did not look back. The band faded awkwardly because the entrance was over and no one had told them what to do with silence. The room began to notice. It happens that way, not like a wave, like matches. One face turns, then two, then a murmur catches near table 3. A cousin leans sideways. A server stops with a tray of champagne flutes. Lena's mouth opens. Rose puts one hand flat on the table, ready to stand. I did not move. Camden said, louder this time, "Where is Elise's chair?" It was the first clear sentence of the collapse. Beth stepped forward, pale. It was placed earlier. Marianne turned then, eyebrows lifting with practiced surprise. "Oh dear," she said. "Is there a missing chair?" Oh dear. I remember those 2 words because they were so small beside what she had done. Camden stared at her. "Mom? What?" She looked around as if the room itself had inconvenienced her. "I'm sure staff can bring one. No need to make everyone uncomfortable." Everyone. Not me. Everyone. Graham stood slowly from his chair. He looked at the gap, then at his wife. I saw something crack behind his eyes. Not shock. He knew. Maybe not the chair. Maybe not the exact method. But he knew the shape of the thing. He had heard the hallway. He had called it cruel, then followed her into the room anyway. A banquet captain hurried forward with a chair from a side table. Marianne laughed lightly. "There we are. Fixed." The captain began to slide it into the gap. But the head table had been arranged tightly. Too tightly. The greenery had been draped across the front. The place settings had been measured with care. Every chair fit except the one they had removed. To put mine back, someone would have to shift the table settings, move the water glasses, disturb the perfect line. A small inconvenience. A public one. The captain hesitated. I looked at him and said quietly, "Please wait." He stopped. The ballroom had gone almost silent. Camden's hand was still around mine, but now his fingers were tense. He whispered. I looked at him. This was the moment Rose had warned me about. Walk toward him. If he steps back into them, keep walking past. I gave him one chance. Not because he deserved only one, because I had already given him dozens in smaller rooms. Ask her, I said. He looked sick. What? Ask your mother why my chair was removed. Marianne's smile sharpened. Elise, sweetheart, this is clearly a staff mistake. Let's not turn a chair into a trial. There it was. The pivot, the bride as unstable, the insult as accident, the room as jury. I looked at Camden. His mouth opened once, then closed. 1, 2, 3. Then he turned to Marianne. Why was her chair removed? The words did not come out strong. They shook. But they came out. Marianne blinked. Camden, don't be absurd. Answer me. Tessa sat down slowly, like her knees had stopped working. A guest at table 4 whispered, "Oh my God." Marianne's eyes flashed toward the room, measuring damage. I did not remove anything, she said. Beth, poor brave Beth, stepped forward with her clipboard clutched to her chest. Mrs. Vale, she said, voice thin but clear, you handed my banquet captain an alternate head table setup at 5:58 p.m. The room shifted. Marianne turned toward her slowly. Excuse me? Beth swallowed. I removed the alternate place cards, but during room flip, the chair at the bride's setting was taken out. That is ridiculous, Marianne said. Mr. Bellamy appeared at the edge of the head table. He did not hurry. That mattered. He walked through the silence like it belonged to him, clipboard in one hand, reading glasses hanging from his jacket pocket. He stopped beside me, not in front of me. Mrs. Vale, he said, the chair was moved by a staff runner after your written instruction was handed to Belwick Service. Marianne's face went blank. Written instruction. The words landed harder than a shout. Graham closed his eyes. Camden's hand slipped out of mine. For one painful second, I thought he was stepping away. Then he moved in front of me. Not fully, not dramatically, just half a step, enough to place himself between his mother and the gap where my chair should have been. Written instruction, he said. Mr. Bellamy looked at me. The signer, the client, my choice. I nodded once. He turned the clipboard so I could see the top page. A photocopy, not my approved chart. A smaller sheet with handwritten notes in Marianne's neat slanted script. Head table adjusted for family continuity. Bride to table 19, no disruption to flow. Family continuity. I almost admired how cleanly she had written my removal. Marianne reached for the paper. Mr. Bellamy lifted it slightly out of reach. This is part of my service record now, he said. Her mouth tightened. You are a caterer. Yes, he said. And this is a catered event under contract. She looked at me then. Really looked. No sweetness, no gardenia softness, no pearl-covered sympathy. Hatred has a plain face when it stops dressing up. This is not the time, she said. I answered, you chose the time. A low sound moved through the guests. The banquet captain still stood with the extra chair in his hands, trapped in the strangest moment of his work life. I felt sorry for him. I turned to him. You can set it down for now. Thank you. He looked relieved enough to age backward. Marianne leaned toward Camden. Please, she whispered, do not let her do this here. Camden flinched. I saw it. Everyone close enough saw it. The old string pulled. Do not make mother look bad. Do not embarrass the family. Do not force the room to see what the family does. For a moment the whole marriage stood on that string. Camden looked at his mother, then at the empty space, then at me. His eyes were wet. What did you do? He asked her. Marianne's face folded into pain so quickly it almost looked real. I tried to protect this family from being humiliated by money, she said. Money. There it was at last. Not the chair, not the chart, not tradition, money. She turned toward the room, and I watched her make the choice that finished everything. Elise has been holding payments over us for months, she said, voice trembling just enough. Every decision, every flower, every detail became a reminder that she was paying. I did not want my son sitting at his own wedding reception under a balance sheet. A murmur ran through the room. My body went cold, but not with fear, with clarity. Mr. Bellamy was still beside me. The folder was not in my hands. Rose had it. I looked toward her. She was already standing. So was Lena. Rose walked to me carrying the cream folder against her chest. Not rushing, not hiding. Every eye followed her. She placed it in my hands. Marianne's face changed again. Just a flicker. But I saw it. I held the folder, feeling its weight. Contracts, receipts, emails, my father's note. 6 months of being called practical by people spending my money in rooms where they treated me like a guest. Camden whispered, "Elise?" I looked at him. "This wasn't revenge," I said. "It was a record." Then I opened the folder. If you are still here, and you know what it feels like when someone calls your boundaries bitterness because they expected your silence, comment the word invoice. Not because money is everything, it is not. But because truth often leaves a paper trail, and people who live on image hate paper more than they hate anything else. Stay with me now. This is the part where the room finally learned who had built the room. At 6:18 p.m., I removed the Bellwick Club contract from the left pocket. The ballroom watched. I did not rush. Rushing would have looked like panic. My hands were steady. That surprised people later when they told the story, but it did not surprise me. I had spent my life handling other people's dead parents, missing deeds, and siblings ready to sue over silverware. Paper calmed me. Paper did not ask me to make it feel better. I turned to Elaine, the event director, who had appeared near the ballroom doors, with a face like thunder wrapped in customer service. "Elaine," I said, "would you please confirm the client name on the venue agreement?" Elaine looked at Marianne, then at me. To her credit, she did not hesitate. "The venue agreement for today's event is under Elise Marrow and Camden Vale, with payment remitted from Elise Marrow." Marianne said, "That is private financial information." Elaine's expression became very still. "You introduced it publicly, Mrs. Vale." A soft gasp came from somewhere near table 8. At 6:20 p.m., I removed the Bellamy contract. "Mr. Bellamy," I said, "would you confirm who signed the catering agreement?" He adjusted his glasses. "Elise Marrow." "And who approved the final menu?" "Elise Marrow." "And who paid the deposits and final balance?" "Elise Marrow." Marianne's voice cut in. "With family funds." I turned a page. "No." Just one word. It was enough to silence half the room. I lifted the payment confirmation. March 18th, $10,000 deposit to Bellamy Co. from my personal wedding account. April 2nd, $18,750 venue deposit to Bellwick Club from my account. June 9th, $2,840 for the engagement dinner deposit after you told Camden there was a small timing issue. July 22nd, $8,000, second catering payment. September 18th, $6,680.72 final catering balance. My voice did not rise. It did not need to. Total paid by me toward this wedding as of noon yesterday, $61,438.72. Nobody moved. The number sat under the chandeliers. Marianne looked like I had slapped her, though all I had done was count. Camden turned toward me slowly. He knew most of it. Not all. I saw that too. The engagement dinner. The welcome bags. The small timing issues that had become my private weather. "Elise," he said, voice breaking. I did not look at him long. If I did, I might soften too soon. I turned back to Marianne. "You told me at lunch that no one likes a tally. But you liked the flowers. You liked the club. You liked the Bellamy menu. You liked the string of vendors who took my calls because your name could not pay their invoices. Her lips parted. You ungrateful, Graham said. Marianne. One word. Late, too late, but it came like a door shutting. She turned on him. Do not. He stood fully. No, he said. I should have said that months ago. The room changed, and Graham's hands trembled. He looked smaller than I had ever seen him, but more present. He faced the guests, then me. Elise paid because we could not, he said. Marianne whispered, Graham. He kept going. The business is not what people think, hasn't been for years. Marianne wanted the wedding at Belwick because she thought people would stop asking questions if the room looked right. A cousin near the back murmured something. Tessa put both hands over her face. Graham looked at Camden. And I let your mother put that burden on Elise because it was easier than admitting I failed. Camden's face crumpled. Dad? Graham shook his head. No, I failed. And then I watched your wife carry the cost and be treated like help. Your wife. Not that girl. Not Camden's choice. Your wife. Marianne's performative pain vanished. You are drunk, she said. Graham looked down at his untouched champagne glass. No. Tessa stood abruptly. Mom, stop. Marianne turned to her daughter, like betrayal had multiplied. Tessa. No. Tessa's voice shook. You said it would just be a seating thing. The whole room heard that. A seating thing. The cruelty had witnesses now. Living ones. Not just paper. Marianne stared at Tessa as if she had dropped a family heirloom. You have no idea what you're saying. I do, Tessa said, crying now. I do. I heard you. I went along with it. I'm sorry. She looked at me then, not with dignity, not with the polished apology people give when they want to skip consequences. She looked ashamed. I'm sorry, Elise. I believed she was sorry. I did not yet care. That is another honest truth. Some apologies arrive while the wound is still open. You can hear them. You do not have to let them climb inside. At 6:27 p.m., Mr. Bellamy cleared his throat. The sound was small, but the room obeyed it. As the catering provider, he said, I need to confirm whether the contracted client wishes dinner service to proceed. There it was. The title of the night, though nobody had written it that way, so I paid the caterer, and the caterer asked me what happened next. Marianne understood before anyone else. Her eyes widened, just slightly. The final service release, the dinner, the timing, the guests, the polished reception she had built like a stage around her last name. All of it paused at my signature. Not because I had trapped her, because she had turned a chair into a contract issue in the middle of a contracted event. Camden looked at me. Elise, he said softly. This time I did look at him. I saw shame, love, fear, the old boy, the new husband, maybe. I saw a man standing between the family that trained him and the woman they had tried to remove. For once, he did not ask me to make it easier. He said, whatever you decide, I'm with you. I wanted those words months earlier. I would take them now, but I would not pretend they erased the weight. I looked at the room. Guests frozen over salads that had not yet been served, servers lined discreetly along the wall. Beth near tears, Elaine with her jaw set, Uncle Ray standing at table 2, arms crossed, looking like a retired bear prepared to become a legal problem. Aunt Camille crying openly, Lena holding Rose's hand. Rose watching Marianne as if calculating exactly how many years prison would be worth. I looked at the head table, at the empty space. Then I looked at the chair the banquet captain still held nearby. Bring the chair, I said. The captain moved fast. He slid it carefully into the gap. Another server adjusted the setting. Someone moved greenery. A water glass clinked. The room watched the smallest restoration of the night. A chair placed where it always should have been. I took the final service release from Mr. Bellamy, but I did not sign yet. I turned to Marianne. You said family sits at the family table. Her face was white. I continued. You were wrong. Family makes room before the table fills. Family does not wait for witnesses. Family does not hide a person by the kitchen doors and call it continuity. No one breathed. I looked at Graham, at Tessa, at Camden, then back at Marianne. I am going to sign this because the people in this room came to eat, not to be punished for your pride. I am going to sit beside my husband because that is my place. And you are going to sit at that same table knowing every person here now understands who tried to remove me from it. I signed, Elise Marrow Vale. The ink looked darker than usual. Mr. Bellamy took the paper, nodded once, and turned to his staff. Service may begin. And just like that, the room exhaled. Not fully, not comfortably, but enough for motion to return. Servers moved. Plates appeared. The band began playing something soft and instrumental because someone, somewhere, had the mercy to avoid lyrics. Camden pulled out my chair. Not the banquet captain, not a server. Camden. His hand shook as he held it. I sat. He sat beside me. Marianne remained standing for 2 more seconds, as if waiting for the room to rearrange itself around her refusal. It did not. Graham sat. Slowly. Tessa sat, still crying. Preston looked like he wished he had chosen literally any other family to date. Marianne sat last. The pear salad arrived. No one at the head table touched it. For 7 minutes, we sat in the strangest silence I have ever known. The room around us tried to become a reception again. Forks lifted, glasses clinked. People whispered with the desperate energy of guests who know they have witnessed something they will discuss for years, but are still expected to eat short rib. Camden turned to me. I'm sorry, he said. I looked at my plate. Pear, arugula, candied walnuts, goat cheese. The salad Marianne had once treated like proof of civilization. I know. No, he said. Not like before. I looked at him then. His eyes were red. I should have stopped this before you needed a folder. That sentence went into me deeper than all his other apologies because it named the right thing. Not before the chair. Before the folder. I put my napkin in my lap. Yes, I said. You should have. He nodded, took it. Did not defend. Did not explain. Did not say he was trying. That was the first useful apology he ever gave me. Marianne leaned toward him. Camden, I need you to understand. He did not look at her. No. She stopped. I am speaking to my son. He turned then. You are speaking to my wife's husband. The words were clumsy. Strange. Almost funny in another room. But they landed. Marianne sat back like he had pushed her. The first course ended. The short rib came. I ate 3 bites because Rose would have noticed if I did not. At 7:03 p.m., the toasts began. Camden's best man went first. Poor Daniel. He had written jokes about college laundry and Camden's fear of geese, and he delivered them to a room still vibrating from financial exposure. Somehow he survived. People laughed too hard because they needed permission. Lena went next. She had not planned to speak. Rose told me later Lena had changed the order with Beth during salad because she refused to let Tessa hold the emotional center. Lena stood with a champagne glass and a face full of bright danger. I met Elise in a women's bathroom at a conference, she began. That got a laugh. She was helping a stranger get ink out of a white blouse with a stain pen from her purse. That is Elise. She has a tool, a plan, and somehow a spare kindness. She does not make a lot of noise about what she carries. So sometimes people assume it is light. Her eyes found mine. It is not. She carries love seriously. She carries promises seriously. She carries the people she chooses with more care than some people carry the people they are handed. The room went quiet again, but softer this time. Lena lifted her glass. Camden, you married a woman who will build a life with you, not around you. Be brave enough to build it back. Camden bowed his head. I cried then, quietly, into a napkin. Rose did not give a toast because she said later she could not guarantee it would remain admissible. Tessa was supposed to speak after Lena. She stood, sat down, stood again. Marianne whispered something to her. Tessa shook her head. She took the microphone. I wrote something cute, she said, voice trembling. About Camden being a nerd and Elise being organized. I'm not going to read it. A few people shifted. Tessa looked at me. I have not been kind to Elise. I called her practical, like it was less than beautiful. I let my mother make her feel outside because it benefited me to stay inside. I'm sorry. Her voice broke. I don't expect that to fix anything. I just wanted to say it where I failed. In front of people. She set the microphone down. No one clapped. At first. Then Uncle Ray did, once, twice. Slow. Not celebration. Acknowledgement. Others joined softly. Marianne stared at her daughter like she had become a stranger. Graham did not speak. Maybe he was supposed to. Maybe he could not. At 8:11 p.m., Camden and I had our first dance. The song was Harvest Moon, chosen because my father used to hum it badly while fixing things around the house. Camden had agreed immediately when I suggested it months earlier. Marianne had said it was a little sleepy. I thought of that as Camden took my hand and led me to the dance floor. The room circled us. His hand settled at my waist. For a while we just moved. Then he said, I got your note. I looked up. I read it 3 times. I swallowed. What did it make you think? That I've been making you walk too far alone. I stared at his tie because his face was too much. He continued, I don't know how to undo tonight. You can't. I know. That's new. He gave a sad little laugh. Yeah. We turned slowly beneath the chandeliers. I need to tell you something, he said. What? When I saw the chair missing before I asked her, I wanted to pretend it was staff. I know. His eyes filled. I hate that you know. I hate that I do too. He nodded once. But I asked. You did. Too late. Yes. His jaw trembled. I don't want to be too late again. I did not answer right away. Love after harm is not a switch. It is not a speech. It is not a dance under rented lights. It is a long road with receipts of a different kind. Showing up, telling truth, disappointing the right people, repairing without asking the injured person to admire the repair. So I said, then don't tell me. Show me. He nodded. I will. I hoped he meant it. I did not build a house on hope that night. At 8:30, the dance floor opened. People danced carefully at first, then with relief. Weddings are strange that way. A family can crack at dinner and still the band can pull cousins onto the floor by dessert. Human beings are built for denial and rhythm. Uncle Ray danced with Aunt Camille and stepped on her foot twice. Lena danced with Rose even though neither of their partners knew what to do with them. Tessa sat alone for a long time, then came to me near the dessert table. Elise, she said. I turned. She looked younger without performance. Her mascara had smudged. The camel boot confidence was gone. I know tonight isn't about making me feel better, she said. That's good. She winced, but nodded. I deserve that. I did not soften. She held out something small. My place card. Elise Marrowvale. I took it from the alternate stack, she said. The one Mom made. It had your name for table 19. I don't know why I kept it. Maybe because I knew it was wrong and wanted proof I knew. I looked at the card. Table 19 was written in Marianne's hand on the back. That clean slant. That tidy cruelty. I took it. I took. Thank you. Tessa nodded. I'm sorry for the bathroom comment, too. At the engagement dinner. Blue-collar loyal. I looked at her. You knew I heard? Your face when you came out. She swallowed. I pretended you were sensitive because it was easier than admitting I was mean. That seems to be a family habit. Yes, she said. It is. There was nothing else to say then. She walked away. I placed the table 19 card inside the cream folder. Not because I needed more evidence, because some objects deserve to be retired where they cannot hurt anyone loose. At 9:05, Marianne disappeared. I noticed because the air changed. For hours, she had sat like a queen whose country had voted, stiff, pale, furious. Guests approached her with cautious smiles, and she performed grace through clenched teeth. But after the cake cutting, when Camden fed me a tiny bite of vanilla cake with raspberry filling and did not smash it into my face because he valued his life, Marianne was simply gone. Graham found me near the terrace doors. "Elise," he said. He looked 20 years older than he had at rehearsal dinner. Marianne left. "I know. I'm sorry." I waited. He held a glass of water in both hands. "I have said sorry to myself all night," he continued, "trying to make it sound like I was saying it to you. That is another coward's trick." I looked at him more gently than I expected to. "Yes." He nodded. "I knew she resented you. I knew she was ashamed about the money. I knew she was making you carry things. I told myself it was between women, or between you and Camden, or wedding stress, anything that let me stay quiet." His voice broke. "Your father would have hated me." The sentence hit a place I had not guarded. Maybe because it was true. Maybe because he said my father without using him as a weapon. "My father hated cowardice," I said. "But he believed people could stop being cowards." Graham closed his eyes. When he opened them, there were tears on his cheeks. "I don't know if I'm stopping too late." "You are stopping late," I said. He nodded like he deserved that. But late is not the same as never. I do not know why I gave him that mercy. Maybe because he had stood up in the ballroom. Maybe because he had named the debt. Maybe because my father had taught me that truth is not cruelty just because it hurts, and mercy is not weakness just because someone does not deserve it fully. Graham took a breath. "I am going to sell the showroom," he said. I blinked. "That's not something you need to tell me tonight." I need to say it out loud somewhere she can't stop me. It's over. It has been over. I kept the doors open for pride, hers and mine. He looked toward the ballroom. "I won't ask you for forgiveness tonight." "Good." A sad smile moved over his face. "You are very much your father's daughter." This time, I let the words be kind. At 10 unquock, the late-night coffee and tiny grilled cheese sandwiches came out. Camden found me laughing for the first real time all evening because Uncle Ray had eaten 4 and was trying to convince a server they were medicinal. "Are you okay?" Camden asked. "No," he nodded. "Can I stand here anyway?" I looked at him. "Yes." So he stood there. No fixing, no speeches, just stood. That was something. At 10:37, Mr. Bellamy approached with a small white takeout box. "For you," he said. "What is it?" "2 grilled cheese sandwiches and cake. Brides never eat enough." I took it with both hands. "Thank you. For more than this." He inclined his head. "I only kept the contract." "No," I said. "You kept the room honest." His eyes softened. "Your father teach you the folder?" "Yes." "Good man." "The best." Mr. Bellamy glanced toward the dance floor where Camden was speaking quietly with Graham. "Will you be all right?" I looked down at the cream folder, now resting on a chair beside me. It had been through the day like another guest. "I will be." That was not my question. I smiled faintly. People kept doing that to me, asking the right question under the polite one. "I don't know yet," I said. That is an honest place to begin. At 11:15, the reception ended. Guests lined the front steps with sparklers because Marianne had insisted on a sparkler exit for photographs. She was not there to see it. That fact gave me no joy, less than I expected. The sparklers hissed in the dark. Camden and I walked through a tunnel of light. People cheered. Lena cried again. Rose yelled, "Keep the folder!" which made Uncle Ray laugh so loudly the photographer captured it. Camden helped me into the car. Before he got in, he turned back to the steps. Graham stood alone under the portico. Tessa stood a few feet away from him, arms crossed over her dress. Marianne was gone. The black door of Belwick Club shone behind them. The restoration had failed. Something truer, messier, and poorer had been left in its place. Camden got into the car and closed the door. For a long moment we sat in the back seat without speaking. The driver pulled away. I watched Belwick shrink through the rear window. Camden said, "I don't want to go on the honeymoon tomorrow." I turned to him. We were supposed to fly to Maine for 5 days. A quiet inn, ocean views, lobster rolls. I had packed sweaters. "Why?" I asked. "Because I don't think we should begin by pretending tonight was just a bad wedding story." I looked at him for a long time. "Where would we go?" "Home," he said. "Your house, if you'll let me. Separate rooms if you want. Or I can go to Daniel's. But I think I need to make calls tomorrow. To my mother. To a therapist. To the airline. To anyone who needs to hear that I'm not available to help clean this up by blaming you." My throat tightened. "That is a good sentence," I said. "I'm trying to make it a good action." I nodded. "Okay." He reached for my hand, slowly, asking without asking. I let him hold it. The car smelled like leather, smoke from the sparklers, and rosemary crushed from my bouquet resting on the seat beside me. The next morning, I woke in my own bed with my wedding dress hanging over the closet door and my husband asleep in the guest room. That is not a romantic sentence. It is, however, a true one. At 7:40 a.m., I walked into the kitchen wearing pajamas and found Camden at the table with coffee, his phone, and a notebook. The cream folder sat between us. He had not opened it. "I made coffee," he said. "Thank you. I called the airline. We have credit." "Okay." I texted my mom. My stomach tightened. "What did you say?" He turned the phone toward me. "Mom, last night happened because of your choices. Do not contact Elise. Do not ask other people to contact us. I will speak with you when I am ready, and not before. If you discuss Elise's money, family, or character with guests, vendors, or relatives, I will correct the record publicly." I read it twice. "When did you send it?" 6 to 12. "Did she answer?" "Yes." He scrolled. Marianne had written, "I cannot believe you are doing this to me the morning after your wedding." Then, "After everything I gave you." Then, "She has poisoned you." Then, at 7:03, "Family does not abandon family." Camden had replied at 7:05, "Family makes room." I stared at those 3 words. There it was. The inversion. Not mine. His. I sat down slowly. He looked scared, hopeful, ashamed. "I should have said it sooner," he said. "Yes. I mean it now. I know." We drank coffee in silence. At 8:30, Rose texted, "Alive?" I sent back, "Mostly." She replied, "Good. Do not read social media. Lena is monitoring. I am making soup later. No crimes yet." At 9:15, Uncle Ray called. "You married?" "So far." He grunted. "Good answer." I laughed softly. "You okay, kid?" "I don't know." "Good answer again." He paused. "Your dad would have been proud when you signed that paper." My eyes filled. He would have hated the bill. He would have haunted the club thermostat. That made me laugh hard enough to cry. By noon, the packets began. That is how aftermath arrived. not as one wave. Packets. First, texts from relatives. Camden's cousin Marla. I'm sorry for what happened. I had no idea you paid. That was wrong. Graham's brother. Your composure last night was admirable. Please know not everyone agreed with Marianne. One of Tessa's friends. I was at table 19. I am so sorry. We were told you wanted to sit with younger guests later in the evening. That sounded weird even then. Then vendors. Elaine sent a formal incident summary with the alternate seating sheet attached. She apologized for the chair being removed after Beth had stopped the place cards and waived several small post-event charges. I did not ask her to. She said it was the club's responsibility that unauthorized instructions had slipped through. Priya sent a photo of my bouquet before delivery and wrote, "The rosemary was perfect." Mr. Bellamy sent the final invoice marked paid in full. At the bottom, he added one handwritten line scanned into the file. Some clients feed a room, some teach it to tell the truth. I printed that too. Then came the social version. Marianne did not post. That was how I knew she was truly shaken. Tessa posted one photo from the ceremony with a caption that said, "Some days teach you what family should mean." Proud of my brother and his wife. It was not perfect. It was maybe performative. But it was a start. Marianne's friends posted carefully cropped photos of flowers and cake. No head table, no speeches, no mother of the groom glow. The silence around her was its own announcement. 3 days after the wedding, Graham came to Linden Street alone. Camden was there. So was I. We sat in the living room, not the kitchen, because the kitchen still felt like triage. Graham brought a cardboard box. "I found these at the house," he said. He set the box on the coffee table. Inside were vendor envelopes, copies of quotes, notes in Marianne's handwriting, a list titled Optics, another titled Who Must See, names of old clients, club members, people from church, former showroom customers. At the bottom of the box was a smaller envelope. Cash, $2,000. Graham looked embarrassed. "It's not enough." "No," I said. "It isn't." Camden looked at me, then at his father. Graham nodded. "I know. I am meeting with a broker about the showroom. When it sells, I will repay what we can, not because it fixes it, because it is owed." I did not touch the cash. "Where is Marianne?" "At home." "Does she know you're here?" "Yes." "And?" "She said if I walked out with that box, I should not come back." Camden went still. Graham's eyes filled, but he did not look away. I walked out. There was no triumph in it, only grief. For the first time, I felt sorry for him in a way that did not excuse him. Camden stood and hugged his father. Graham broke then, quietly, into his son's shoulder. I went to the kitchen and made coffee because sometimes mercy looks like giving people a room where they can cry without being watched. I did not accept the $2,000 that day. Not because I was above it, because it felt like hush money until there was a plan. 2 weeks later, Graham sent a repayment schedule drafted by an actual accountant. Small monthly payments until the showroom sale. Transparent, signed. Camden and I reviewed it together. I accepted. Marianne did not sign it. She sent a letter instead. Not an email, not a text. A letter on thick cream stationery, because even apologies to Marianne required presentation. "Elise, I regret that the wedding became painful. Emotions were high. I felt displaced from my son's life and reacted from fear. I hope one day you understand that mothers sometimes make mistakes when they love deeply." Marianne, no apology for the chair. No apology for table 19. No apology for my father. No apology for the money. I read it once and placed it in the folder. Camden asked, "Are you going to answer?" "No." "Do you want me to?" "No." He nodded. Old Camden would have tried to explain what she meant. New Camden, or the beginning of him, sat beside me and let her words be insufficient. That mattered. Marriage after a night like that is not clean. People want endings where the husband becomes perfect by sunrise and the cruel mother disappears forever into her own empty ballroom. Real life is slower and less satisfying in the short term. Camden started therapy the following Thursday. He went every week. Sometimes he came home quiet, sometimes angry, sometimes embarrassed by memories he had once considered normal. He learned words like enmeshment and conflict avoidance, but the best thing he learned was shorter. No. He practiced it badly at first. Marianne called from a different number. No. Tessa asked if he could just smooth things over before Thanksgiving. No. Graham tried to make Camden his emotional translator during the separation from Marianne. No, Dad, I love you, but get your own therapist. I watched. I did not applaud every no. A grown man does not get a parade for basic boundaries. But I noticed. Marianne missed Thanksgiving, not because she was banned, because we hosted at Linden Street, and Camden told her she could come only if she treated me with respect and did not discuss the wedding as something that had happened to her. She replied with a photograph of herself alone beside a white pumpkin centerpiece. Camden cried in the bathroom for 9 minutes. I know because I counted. Then he came back to the kitchen, washed his hands, and helped Uncle Ray carve the turkey. That was marriage, too. Tessa came. She brought rolls and a nervous store-bought pie. She stood in my kitchen doorway for too long before asking where to put her coat. I said, "Closet by the stairs." She nodded like I had granted citizenship. At dinner, she asked Aunt Camille about Arizona. She complimented Lena's scarf. She did not say practical once. Near the end of the night, while Camden and Graham were arguing gently about whether stuffing should be called dressing, Tessa came to the sink where I was rinsing plates. "I'm trying not to make you responsible for making me feel better," she said. I looked at her. "You're doing okay." She breathed out like she had been holding it since September. "I'm sorry anyway. I know. I want to be different. Then be different longer than you were cruel." She nodded. That was the closest thing to forgiveness I had available. In January, Graham sold the showroom building. It did not fetch what Marianne had once claimed it was worth. Of course it did not. Pride appraises high. Banks do not. After debts, taxes, and closing costs, there was enough to repay a large portion of what Camden and I had spent. Not all. Graham sent a cashier's check with a copy of the closing statement. He also included a note. "Elise, this is not generosity. It is correction." "Graham," I showed it to Camden. He read it and said, "That sounds like you." "No," I said. "It sounds like someone learning." Marianne moved into a condo on the north side that spring. She told people the house was too large after Camden married. That was her version. It was not true, but I had lost interest in chasing every falsehood. The people who needed to know knew. The people who preferred her version were not my assignment. There is peace in resigning from the position of correcting every room. Camden and I eventually took the main trip in May. The ocean was cold. The inn smelled like old wood and lemon soap. We ate lobster rolls on a bench with paper napkins blowing everywhere. One evening we walked along a rocky beach while the sky turned pink and gray. Camden stopped and said, "Do you regret marrying me?" The question had been walking beside us all week, waiting for a place to stand. I looked at the water. "No." He exhaled. Then I said, "But I regret how lonely I was before I did." He flinched, but he did not retreat. "I do too," he said. We stood there with the wind pushing at our coats. "I can't promise I'll never disappoint you," he said. "You will." A sad smile. "I can promise I won't ask you to sit at table 19 so I can stay comfortable at the head table." I looked at him then. It was not a perfect line. It was better than perfect. It was specific. I took his hand. That is a promise I can work with. A year after the wedding, the cream folder moved from my desk drawer to a storage box in the closet. I did not need it close anymore. I kept the contracts, the receipts, the alternate place card, Mr. Bellamy's note, Graham's repayment schedule, and my father's letter. Not because I wanted to live inside the injury, because records are not always weapons. Sometimes they are gravestones. They mark where something ended so you do not keep walking in circles over the same ground. Marianne and I are not close. That is the cleanest way to say it. She has seen me 4 times since the wedding, twice at family events, once at Tessa's birthday dinner, once when Camden had a minor surgery and she came to the waiting room wearing sunglasses indoors. The first time she tried to kiss my cheek. I stepped back, not dramatically, just enough. She looked wounded. I let her. At Tessa's birthday, she said, "I hope we can all move forward." I said, "Forward requires facing the right direction." She did not answer. The mercy beat, if you are waiting for one, is this. I did not make Camden choose never to see his mother again. I did not demand that Tessa cut her off. I did not post to. He documents online. I did not send the alternate seating sheet to every guest with a red circle around table 19. I could have. For one ugly week, I wanted to. Instead, I kept the folder closed unless someone lied directly to my face. That was mercy, not silence. Silence protects the wrong thing. Mercy is truth without extra knives. When Marianne told one aunt that I had misunderstood a seating delay, Camden corrected it. When she told a club friend that money had made me sensitive, Graham corrected it. When she told Tessa that I had ruined the reception, Tessa said, "No, Mom, you just lost control of the part where everyone pretended." That was enough. The world turned. Lena had a baby and named me godmother, which made me cry harder than I expected. Rose got promoted and still carries too many medical supplies in her purse. Uncle Ray finally let someone else fix his roof after falling off the second rung of a ladder and terrifying all of us. Aunt Camille visits every summer now and complains about Ohio humidity like it is personally rude. Camden and I bought a bigger dining table last November. Not expensive. Solid oak, secondhand, with one scratch down the middle and room for 10 chairs if we squeeze. When the delivery men brought it into the Linden Street dining room, I stood there longer than necessary. Camden noticed. "What?" he asked. I ran my hand over the scratch. "Nothing." He waited. I smiled a little. "It just has enough chairs." On our second anniversary, Mr. Bellamy retired. We went to his final public dinner service, a small event at his tasting room downtown. He recognized us immediately and came to the table with that same warm gravel voice. "Bride," he said. "Caterer," I said. Camden shook his hand. Mr. Bellamy looked at us both. "You doing all right?" Camden answered before I could. "We're doing honest." Mr. Bellamy nodded. "Best anyone can do." At the end of the dinner, he sent us home with lemon cakes. The same kind from the tasting. I ate one the next morning over the sink, barefoot, while Camden made coffee and the house filled with ordinary light. That is what I want you to understand. The victory was not that Marianne was embarrassed. Embarrassment fades. Proud people survive it by changing the story. The victory was not that guests learned I paid. I did not want applause for spending money I would rather still have in my savings account. The victory was not even that my chair was put back. The victory was that, for once, I did not shrink to make the lie easier to serve. I had spent months being called practical, steady, useful, sensitive, controlling, independent, and not quite family. I had spent months watching people enjoy what I paid for while treating my presence as something to manage. I had spent months hoping love would make Camden brave before pain made me tired. And then came the chair. Just a chair. Wood, cushion, 4 legs. But sometimes a chair is not a chair, so me times it is the final little object that tells the whole truth. Who is expected to stand? Who is expected to smile? Who is expected to be grateful for being near the table at all? Marianne believed family sits at the family table. I believe family is who notices when your chair is missing and refuses to eat until it is brought back. That is the difference. If you have lived through your own version of Table 19, I hope you keep your records. Not just paper ones. Keep records in your body. The moment your stomach tightens. The joke that is not a joke. The apology that asks you to comfort the person who hurt you. The room where you are included only if you stay convenient. Do not become cruel. Cruelty is easy to inherit from cruel rooms. but do become clear. Clear enough to know what happened, clear enough to name it, clear enough to stop begging for a chair from people who keep moving the table. My father never saw me get married. He never saw the folder. He never saw Camden choose better, late but real. He never saw Marianne's face when the invoice told the truth. But I think about his note all the time. Do not fight in doorways. Do not beg for a chair. If you are wanted, they will make room. If you are used, they will make excuses. He was right. That night, I stopped accepting excuses. And when I signed the caterer's final release, when the chair slid back into place, when my husband finally stood where truth was instead of where comfort was, I understood something I wish I had known sooner. Dignity is not getting the best seat in the room. Dignity is being willing to leave any room that requires you to disappear before it calls you family. That's my story. If it stayed with you, comment the word folder or tell me where you watched from. And if you know someone who has been made to feel like a guest in their own life, stay close to them. Believe the small things before they become a ballroom. Subscribe if you want more stories about quiet truth, clean receipts, and the kind of justice that does not need to shout.